Hello, everyone. Welcome. Today is Saturday, Sabbath, 16th of July, 2022. At least I think it's in here, yeah. And I'm gathered here with Michael, and we are going to delve into the 1611 King James Version of the Bible and putting that up against 9/11 Inside Job. Welcome, Michael.
Hello, Brett. Hello, dear listeners. At the moment, it's very busy time, so many things to follow, so many things to do. But I'm really seeing the end of the tunnel for the Kennedy things. And so this is one of the later sessions now. It's about 2211 inside job. 22 and 11, of course, is resulting to be 33. It's an inside job, and we will say why it is an inside job, and I came to other conclusions. This is just more or less a secular session and not a biblical session at the moment. I apologize, but this and the next 2 or 3 sessions will be pure secular until we finally get to the background, which is then clerical. Let me surprise you. But it is an inside job. You see that there is 9/11 and 22/11. These are both inside jobs. And therefore, we have to have another approach. There are so many witnesses. There are so many testimonies. There is so much going on in the Didi Plaza. And you can't listen to anybody. And you can't trust anyone. That's the problem. Yeah? So you have to try to take it on like Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes never existed, and therefore, yeah, you see that it's just hilarious how full of lies this world is. But we have to take it as an inside job. Inside job does not mean that it happened inside, but inside means there are insiders who absolutely planned that operation, and that's the same for the 21st century as well as in 1963. Yeah, so we have to keep it simple. It is not the solution that we have been given by the governments, but it's just our own conclusion. You have to really use your common sense. And let me try to guide you through this session here. It's really hard to do that session. I needed so much time in German, and I'm very afraid that I really will need much time in English.
Michael, would you mind if I just add a little quick biblical reference to the session right now? It's Revelation chapter 9, verse 11. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because, well, the book of Revelation is a prophetic book, and it's been mentioned before by other researchers that this applies to this topic, okay?
So
Revelation. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm in the wrong because I have already had...
Take your time.
No, I already had prepared reading here, but Revelation 9 is it?
Yes.
9/11.
9/11, that's
right.
Yeah,
that's Apollyon, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sure you probably inserted it somewhere in the session, right?
Not yet, no.
No, but anyway, so this is what I just quick want to read. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit. Now, if you read the book of Revelation, chapter 9, you'll understand exactly what this means. Whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue, his name is Apollyon. Yes. So another name for Satan, right, Michael?
Yes, absolutely.
Always changing his name, isn't he? He was first Lucifer, then he became Satan.
Yeah, it's just a profession. It's just not a real name. It's just a profession. No, that's it. That's what.
Professional. Yeah, I see. Like a merchant of the earth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got to sell you something. That's true. And the Bible states, "Buy the truth and sell it not." Right, Michael?
You see, like Emmanuel, huh? Or Adam. Adam. Yeah, the meaning of Adam is the first man. That was also his profession, to be the first one to name the animals, for example. Yeah, that's also an obligation then. When you have received the name Adam as the first man on earth, then what's your profession? Other than to be the first man, to be the first witness of God's creation. And he witnessed the creation of God. Ah. Okay, so I have also prepared a chapter here. This is Matthew 7. Because we have been presented in this world by all the so-called evidence from the governments and media, etc. And many people absolutely don't know what are mass media. And mass media is, of course, the media for the masses. And media is a tribe of the Medo-Persians. And this is a priestly tribe also. And you see that these were the translators between heaven and earth, so to speak. And so the mass media are the mediators between heaven and earth for the masses, and the masses are in the Antichrist spirit. And that's why I want to come up with Matthew chapter 7, verse 13 and 14.
Okay. Enter ye in at the strait gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Because strait is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it.
Yeah, when you compare that with the mass media, what do you get? When the masses of the people are on the Broadway, yeah, so to speak, at the New York, at the Broadway, leading to destruction, then they receive their information, of course, from the mediums, from the priestly tribes of media in the Antichrist spirit. So they get the lies and they will swallow up the lies because it is just an Antichrist government, an Antichrist world with all the lies. And all the murders, of course. We are talking about a murder case in the case of the American president here. So that means that the mass media, they have the task to disinform the people with all their lies. Because the majority is on the Broadway, so the majority is in the Antichrist spirit. But there's only just a few people who are then passing the gate on the narrow way, which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. So few there be that find the narrow path unto life. And Jesus Christ said in John 14:6, I am the way, the life, and the truth. No one gets to the Father but by me. So that means that there are just a few people who will then meet Jesus to receive eternal life, and a few people who will meet Jesus, which is the absolute truth. And you see that when you talk about Jesus or the Bible or truth in general, there will just be a few people who will follow you or make up their minds, because it's just not meant to be that the masses of the people are being instructed with the truth, because they will reject it. That it's been clearly outspoken here in Matthew chapter 7. So for the masses of the people with the mass media, they of course get the explanation that of course could not be anyone other than Lee Harvey Oswald. And they will swallow that pill. Because that's their purpose in life. They only live once and they just want to have pleasure and fun and everything else. Drinking, smoking. Yeah, so they will swallow it because you see that they don't have any time or any brain to come to any conclusions. Because it's just not meant to be. I'm so sorry for the majority of people, but that's just the case. You can't instruct or you can't inform anyone who doesn't want to be informed, who just rejects everything because he's not interested in facts or the truth. These people are in the Antichrist spirit, and these people will be misinformed by the mass media because, according to the Bible, that's absolutely their purpose on mass media, to disinform the people, to spread all the lies. For the people in the Antichrist spirit. I hope I made my point.
Yeah, to deceive the people.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why the majority, of course, believes in the moon landing. Yeah, you can sell everything. Oh, there will be a meteor coming up, there will be alienation, there will be alien intruders, there will be Planet X, there will be Planet Y, and there will be the invasion of Mars. You can sell them everything. I think that people like Elon Musk, yeah, they just can't stop laughing. Can sell him everything. Majority of people will go onto the broad way, lead to destruction. The broad way is the broad way where the general people are. When you see the hierarchy of the Freemasons, for example, you see the layman, the average worker, the civilian, whatsoever you would like to call them. You see that on the low levels, 1, 2, 3, thinking they are something special because they're initiated or whatsoever. But actually, the nobleman and the really insiders, they're on the higher levels. So these are just a few insiders who overlook all the operations which are going down below, because when you think about the education, there are some people who are writing these curriculums and then they spread their so-called truth or their doctrine down below, so that the average guy thinks he knows it all by spending his time watching mass media. Yeah, and here are the insiders. Here are the people. You see, these people are not dressed average. Now, these are the higher people, or these supreme beings. Let's get it on. This is mass media. This is Greta Thunberg in England, Glastonbury. It's almost the same symbolism as the hotel in Luxor in Las Vegas, which also is a reminiscence to the old Egyptian temple in Luxor. Yeah.
Wait a second. That's a festival in Glastonbury?
Mm-hmm.
Glastonbury? Is that in Great Britain?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, is that strange?
Mm-hmm.
That image.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like there's like lights around the bottom portion of the pyramid. Is that the stage?
Mm-hmm.
And there's spotlights going in there.
Yeah, sure. It's
huge crowd.
Greetings to Lucifer.
Yeah,
it's always the same, but this is just mass media. You see the masses of people here. Wow. They are celebrating their heroes or their gods on the stage. Yeah. And on the top of the pyramid, there are some people who are the pre-thinkers, or the people who are putting out the doctrine or the curriculums. One of them is that guy called Yuval Noah Harari.
He's what I would call a textbook example of a Jesuit coadjutor.
Yeah, absolutely.
He is like the prime textbook example in these days we live in today.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of a better example, this guy.
Yeah, that's why I came up with him. You see that these people are behind the politicians. And of course, he's in line with, he's one of the tools of the World Economic Forum. I'm speaking of a totalitarian regime in history, important because then people will accept all these limitations and all the new laws. So he told about that the current changes are necessary and could only be implemented with the fear of the C thing, because a totalitarian regime, he's speaking of regime here in history.
Yeah.
And the C thing is important because it enables the politicians to create and enforce all the new laws, because the people are so afraid. Yeah, you see, they're speaking of the totalitarian regime in the Democracy Forum. Isn't it hilarious? Sure. In association with the New York Times. Yeah.
Well, there you go. There's your democracy for you.
Yeah, it's for democracy. Yeah, and you see that it's very interesting, because he's not only an Israeli historical teacher, but, and now it's a big but, think of the totalitarian regime here. He's one who's influencing international supreme politicians, and he specialized of the history of the military in the Middle Ages. Very interesting, because you see the history of the military of the Middle Ages. I think, okay, I know that it's German. I just translated it 1-to-1 in English.
In other words, the Inquisition.
If you compare that to the military of the Middle Ages with the regimini militantis ecclesiae, so the military regime of the church, right. You see that totalitarian regime in history, and then you see regimini militantis ecclesiae. I think that's very fitting here, that you can say that he's sympathizing towards the Jesuits.
Yeah, that's really, really something, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's why I suppose where the title regime change came from. Yeah, you see, regimini militantis, regime change. Totalitarian regime, regimini militantis, regime change. That is my 2 cents on that.
Ah, good 2 cents, Michael. I'll buy that. Yep.
Okay. So that's just the thing of the prehistorical thing to the Kennedy session, which will soon start. You know, you see that all is coming back. The world's first electric wingsuit. Doesn't that remind you of fallen angels somewhere? Yeah. So see, they don't want to implement a totalitarian regime. And that's why I thought of Kennedy. Why? Because there's a friend of us called Daryl Eberhard. And the two of us made a session with him in August 2021 called Two Assassinations Tell One Tale. So on the one hand, Abraham Lincoln, on the other hand, John F. Kennedy. And I found very interesting things on that script. First of all, that there were no regular people murdering the president of old, so the Abraham Lincoln. That was a John Wilkes Booth, a Freemason, and also a Knight of the Golden Circle. Very interesting. And of course, Lee Harvey Oswald, the supposed murder, which was not the murder at all, because there were no gunpowder traces on his face, according to the Dallas Police Chief Jesse Curry, who was also a 33-degree Freemason. This has been stated in the book of Thomas M. Harris, Rome's Responsibility for the Assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Yeah. And I found another quote of Daryl Eberhard, which I would like to share with you. Daryl said there was once a historically confirmed conspiracy in the United States. Then it was uncovered by a certain Smedley D. Butler, coming from the book The Plot to Seize the White House, the shocking true story of the conspiracy to overthrow FDR. So Roosevelt happened to be a Freemason. Roosevelt happened to be the chief of the father of John F. Kennedy, Joseph Kennedy, who happened to be an ambassador to Great Britain. So there were once conspiracies, officially confirmed conspiracies. And you see the Jesuits' footprints all over the place. And nowadays, everybody's looking for a new Smedley Butler, but it has not yet appeared on the scene. In the German Wikipedia, you don't find anything but, oh no, there are no truths about it. But interesting enough, if you type in the English-American Wikipedia about business plot, you see that it was a political conspiracy in 1933 in the United States to overthrow the government of Francis Delano Roosevelt and to install a dictator. What's a dictator other than a regime change or a totalitarian regime? So they tried already in 1933 to take over America. So why don't they try to take over the world in 2022 entirely? I just want to avoid the word globally, if you know why. Yeah, so there were conspiracies, conspiracy. And this Marine Corps Major General Smedley Butler asserted that wealthy businessmen, whoever that might be, were plotting to create a fascist veterans organization with Butler as its lead and to use it in a coup d'etat to overthrow Roosevelt. From that book, The Adventures of Smedley D. Butler, Old Jim Ladai, von Lowell Thomas. But there are many, many more fascist leaders. On the left, you see this is Benito Mussolini. On the right, this is Austrian dictator. Then coming over to Germany, then Adolf Hitler. In the book Behind the Dictators, they got something in common. They have both the Roman salute. And it's no coincidence that the American architecture is very similar to the Roman architecture. These were the leaders of fascist Italy and Nazi Germany. Both were fascists. Fascists come from the fasci, fascism, comes from Italy. Yeah, why? Of course, because Italy is just the popular successor, so to speak. So the illusion of a democratic public civilian state, which long before was the Holy Roman Empire. So that's why they came out of Italy, because the Romans used the fasci 2000 plus years ago. So it's just all something new or there's nothing new under the sun, but just new clothes. It's the emperor's new clothes. Yeah, and in English, you find that there was proof of a conspiracy, although, of course, the individuals involved denied all the existence of a plot. Yeah, and so there's Jesuit everywhere, also Donald Trump, Jesuit, a Jesuitical Pied Piper, according to Gerald Eberhard. And I said, that's very interesting because it's just the A side on ABBA Super Trooper. It's just the brightest spot you can buy to illuminate artists. That's a Super Trooper. That's a stage spot. And also the B-side of that single, The Piper, is also about Satan. So it's just Satan and Satan. Huh? That's why you see also that logo of ABBA, left side, right side. Yeah, that's a mirror image here. A mirror image means here that you are using the other side. I did 34 sessions of ABBA in German. I don't want to do that in English because I think that ABBA is not so popular in the United States. But now comes the big but from Daryl Eberhard. He says, quote, have we forgotten that during the Woodrow Wilson two-term presidency, just about every single key position in the federal government was held by a 4th-degree Knight of Columbus? Reference is the book of Burke McCarthy, The Suppressed Truth About the Assassination of Abraham Lincoln. And isn't that the same situation in 1963? You see, even Ronald Reagan, 1982, he gives address to the Knights of Columbus, and John F. Kennedy himself being a high-ranking Knight of Columbus. So these are, including John F. Kennedy, by no means some regular people who are just only for civilians to be elected to represent the state. No, these people were pre-selected. These were initiates. So even if John F. Kennedy would have been successful with his politics, he would have made kind of his politics, but he was not a regular John Doe. Yeah, you see that he was grown up in a family of diplomats, a family with extreme wealth, in a family when his father was running a studio in Hollywood. Sorry, guys, that is just not your man. You have to realize that I have been accused by somebody with a comment that I'm speaking in highly regards of John F. Kennedy. That's absolutely untrue. It's just two coins of the same medal. The medal is that trying to take over the state with a good cop and a bad cop. So maybe John F. Kennedy was the good cop, but he was a cop. He was not a representative of the regular John Doe. You have to really get the facts straight. He was a Knight of Columbus. And only God knows what else. So that's my point.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that's very true. That's very true. It's really something. I think that historically it's a very significant thing to study John F. Kennedy's presidency. So this is great, Michael. Thank you.
And that's why I wanted to give some regards to Daryl, because it is really useful to rethink the thing that you have not only to see Mr. President as a victim, which he was, of course, but he was not a representative of the average working class. There is none. It was just the second attempt of Rome to take over the American presidency. That's what it was. And they helped him with that. And the mafia did help him too. So how shall I speak in high regard of Mr. Kennedy? You see that I haven't got to know him in person. And I don't care, actually, because he's a politician. He is just somebody who sells his face. Selling his face, selling his charm, selling his charisma. What else you would like to attribute? But it has nothing to do with the representative of the small working class. So we have to really take on a very hard approach to find out what's what. You see, there are so many fake photos around. This is coming from a movie. This is not the actual shot. The actual shots are very blurry. They're not sharp. It's very hard to figure something out. And there are specialists who did that, especially Fetzner and Jack White, which we spoke about in the last session. So everything is faked here just for the mass media, for the masses. And the masses, they will fall for the Zapruder film. They will keep them busy. The entire life that, oh, I've seen that shadow, I've seen that gun, I've seen this, and it's just a fake movie. Yeah, it's just a fake movie, people. Jeez, please do not rely on that movie alone, at least not alone. Yeah, a certain researcher called Jim Mars, I have my problems with him. You will see later why. He did an interview with the French author William Raymond, and that French author is officially independent. He had some interesting books. Yeah, he has a book called L'assassinat de John F. Kennedy sur lesquels écrit de ouvrage, autopsie d'un crime d'État, which means it's a state crime. Yeah, that's key to understand, that he's accusing the state to be implemented with, to be collaborated with the assassination of Kennedy. It's not only the CIA, but the state. And what is the CIA other but the state organization? So it's not limited to the FBI or CIA, but you see that many people really knew what was coming up. So, apart from all the things that there are Freemasons who were making the dirty laundry or the dirty work in that case. Yeah, I said, my God, quote of Zapruder, I said, my God, they shot the president. When Satan is his God, because he's a Freemason, then the sentence is, Satan, they shot the president. Oh, yeah. Common sense, and just trying to keep it simple as it is. When he said, my God, you see, he's a 32-degree Freemason at the time. He believes in any supreme being. So he's violating the first commandment of the 10, speaking that he's in the Antichrist spirit. It's so blatant easy. It's so easy. And when he comes up with the time, 12:35, you see that 1 + 2 + 3 + 5 is 11 again. Yeah? So this is just a Freemason talk here, and they know more than they are able and willing and allowed to say. And they speak of firecrackers. Hopefully I will remember that. Please remember me, Brett, when it comes down to firecrackers. Yeah, so...
Yeah, this is just an elaborate hoodwink is what this is.
Yeah. So then coming to the first nitty-gritty, you know that Kennedy was running for presidency in 1960. There was a certain mafia-related singer in the United States with the name of Frank Sinatra. And he was making promotion for Kennedy in his campaign, attributing the song High Hopes for him, which was then been played, High Hopes with Jack Kennedy, that Kennedy would would win the election. And that is no coincidence that it came from a picture called A Hole in the Head. And I presume, and I know that it's just now my conclusion, and it's not the absolute truth, I conclude that in case if Kennedy would have made his promises, or would kept his promises that he would separate church and state, which he told the people in the 1960 Houston administration Q&A, I suppose that there were some prominent, important people who had then the plan to how to get rid of Kennedy in case that he is really bound to his oath as a president and is not applying to the clerical church, so speaking of the Pope. It is extremely interesting that that song, which was then the campaign song of Kennedy, comes from the picture A Hole in the Head, when you know that Kennedy was killed using a gun, sort of, with a hole in the head. Yeah. But now we will start with another president. You see, that session is called Inside Job. That is a picture from 1976, when your president after Kennedy, speaking of Gerald Ford, was then just driving in just a decent manner on the Elm Street. Yeah, so what? Yeah, he wasn't shot. He wasn't shot. He was a 33-degree Freemason. Yeah, he wasn't shot. And Mr. Lyndon B. Johnson, he even got the same limousine as Kennedy, but now with a hardtop and now with a special glass to protect
bulletproof glass. Yes.
Bulletproof glass. Yeah, thank you, Raj. He's smiling. Yeah, he knows that he won't be attacked. Yeah.
His wife doesn't look too happy.
I know. I mentioned that in German. That he's just as friendly as his wife, but his wife is more honest. Yeah, he's just a smiling face, but that's it. Yeah, and you see that is very interesting when you just compare Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, and Ford. Why? Because all of them happened to be involved in the Kennedy assassination. Huh? You don't believe me? You don't have to believe me. You have to just follow the session. You see, Kennedy was in Dallas and was being shot. Johnson had been in Dallas, and except in the case of the shooting of Kennedy, just a few meters or just a few yards behind him. Nixon happened to be in Dallas on the night before the assassination, and Gerald Ford was not in Dallas, but he was also a member of the Warren Commission. So they all got their reward. Including Mr. Bush, who is not depicted here. But I can deliver that to you. It is highly likely. It is highly likely that he was part of the scenery there. Not because there is just photographical so-called evidence. You see that everything can be faked, but there is a memorandum to the director of intelligence from J. Edgar Hoover, and J. Edgar Hoover was been known or infamous to not only persecute the people, but also to put pressure on the people in case that he needed some information or some favor. And this is speaking of a certain Mr. George Bush of the Central Intelligence Agency. And that's very interesting because later on, Mr. George Herbert Walker Bush happened to be the director of the CIA even. See that before he was running for president of the United States, he happened to be the CIA director. So everybody was getting his reward. Johnson was getting his reward quite instantly. Nixon was getting his reward. Ford was getting his reward. And Bush was also getting his reward. You see, what other conclusion would I have to take? If that is not quite similar here from the picture of Dallas, I don't know on which time on that location that is. It is allegedly a school book depository. And with George Herbert Walker Bush, then I don't know what is. Yeah, they are quite similar here. But yeah, what do I know? You see, everything can be forged. But, and that's a big but, everything is inside information. So it just only been accessible for people who are insiders. At least you have to be a high-ranking Freemason, or you have to be initiated in some nights, being a diplomat, being a highly ranked politician, or a clergyman, or what else. There's also reference from Gerald Ford to Kennedy. Why? Well, late in his 1976 campaign against Jimmy Carter, Gerald Ford's media team produced a 5-minute commercial that shows Ford, who has survived 2 near-miss assassination attempts, both from women, by the way, giving a speech during which a cherry bomb goes off. The president clearly presumes it as an assassin firing and flinches. In the following scenes, we see Ford parading through Dallas in a motorcade, but just not too fast. I really saw that, and I would like to show that to you. That you really see that can't only be seen as firing from an assassin to Gerald Ford. Just please look at that very small insert from a speech of Gerald Ford.
Trust is not having to guess what a candidate means. Trust is leveling with the people before the election.
So that really tells you that he knew before that some cherry bomb would go off. Yeah, so that was not an assassination. He would have hidden, duck and cover or something else, some action, some similar action, but he did not. Therefore, he was being informed. And it was just a part of the campaign to show Gerald Ford as the American cowboy, as the hard guy, as the tough guy. Yeah. In the following scenes, we see Gerald Ford parading through Dallas in a motorcade similar to John Kennedy's fatal caravan of 1963. The narrator says, quote, "When a limousine can parade openly through the streets of Dallas, there's a change that come over America." That commercial was kept in a vault and never aired.
When a limousine can parade openly through the streets of Dallas, there's a change that's come over America. After a decade of tension, the people and their president are back together again.
That is a kind of statement, huh?
Yeah, it is, Michael.
Yeah, so they are just making fun of the situation to see that, oh, we will get away with everything, even the killing of American president. Up to this very day, so around 60 years later, yeah, there are so many documents hidden and not being handed over to the general public, and there will never be. Never be. And so then please just enjoy, so to speak, that short commercial so that you see that it's really spot on. It's just a reference to Kennedy. And when then you know that Gerald Ford was it, who was being part of the Warren Commission, you see, my. They are so sure about their power, they get away with everything. So the problem is that you really have to sort out your information. You will receive many informations when it comes down to quantity, also of very famous people running big channels, but you won't find only a few ones who are really trying to look behind the curtain with very interesting informations. And I hope I have gathered something. But you see that we will never get so much views than other people who are just being controlled or confused and about the assassination itself. I'm not taking that much interest about the killing of Kennedy, but on the backgrounds. But maybe we have to go into the killing first and then into the backgrounds to understand how and who has been involved in that. Yeah. So there is a certain very interesting channel when it comes down to quantity from David von Payne. But the problem is that he's handing over information all about the official doctrine, that it was just 3 shots, what the witnesses hear. Yeah, you see, hearing a shot had nothing to do with the real event, huh? Yeah, that's a logical fallacy. Appeal to the masses, huh? Wasn't it about mass media? And there's a channel here of David von Payne who has massive contributors and followers. Yeah. So if you are a smart assassin, you won't left 3 bullet shells, huh, under the window. Oh my, it's so obvious, but yeah, you see that. My. Yeah, 3 rifle shells, sure, and the gun, of course. Yeah. How stupid. And David von Payne says all the shots were fired at JFK from the southeast corner of the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository building. And I said, okay, that's a lousy investigation because it's just the official narrative. Yeah, so I label him as much as the majority of other so-called researchers as a disinfo agent. Yeah. So back to Gerald Ford in this motorcade. Yeah, nothing happens. Yeah. Smiling, enjoying the life, because you see that if it's not supposed to happen, it won't happen. As long as you are serving your masters, because the American president is by far not the most powerful man in the world. Yeah? Even he had his accident, but yeah, you see, there was just somebody overlooking that car officially. Yeah, so BS happens, but he was unhurt. Yeah. And I don't know why your American presidents always got that strange habits on standing on the car or standing on a weak chair. I don't know. Must be that they want to be supreme, something like this. I don't know. Yeah, there were 2 assassination attempts on Gerald Ford in 1971. A woman in California who was belonging to a group of Charles Manson followers. And on the 22nd of September, it was the 2nd attempt, women from 13 meters distance firing, but he was not being hurt in both cases. Yeah. So Secret Service was doing his job. Why? Yeah. Why Mr. Pinkerton from the Pinkerton Agency, which was the forerunner of the Secret Service and FBI, etc., why couldn't they protect the American president Abraham Lincoln in 1865? Why couldn't the Secret Service protect the American president John F. Kennedy in 1963? But why could they protect Gerald Ford and Mr. Nixon and Mr. Johnson? Must be very subjective, huh? Oh, just bad luck. I hope you don't think about luck or bad luck, but it's just all.
Yeah, interesting you bring that up because, the first two letters in luck is L-U. Who else has two letters like that in their first title?
Oh, it's interesting that you mentioned that because with my German sister Stephanie, I'm just started a series some weeks ago. Not on a frequent basis, but when I go into very simple symbolism to really see the world with your eyes, and then when you see where does good and bad comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so good comes from God, and bad might use not the original etymology, but it's just my explaining. You see, bad comes from Baal. Yeah? But good is explicitly correct that it comes from God. So all the good things becoming from God, and not the goods, the common good. But you see that God also allows that you can have your own private good. Because otherwise the Ten Commandments would not speak about theft. But just don't tell the Pope he does not know.
Oh, not only just theft, but coveting and adultery and all these other things too, And of course, bearing false witness. Very important. Very important.
So that Gerald Rudolph Ford guy was a 33-degree Freemason, a Schweiner, and only God knows what else. He had made an interesting quote. A government big enough to give you everything you want is a government big enough to take from everything you have. Yeah, that's quite logical, huh? So even his father was a 33-degree Mason. So these people are just not your usual John Doe representatives. This is not a democracy. Just please wake up. This is an elite ruling under the disguise of a democracy.
Yes.
Yeah. So he was initiated in the Malta Lodge in Michigan, in the Columbia Lodge in Columbia, in the Malta Lodge 1851, and he received the Scottish Rite degrees, 33-degree honorate in 1962, 1 year before the assassination took place. And he was a Schreiner and member of the Royal Court of Jesters and Royal Order of Jesters. Yeah, and an honorary member of the
on and on, doesn't it?
On and on, yes. Yeah, on your way, not to LA, but to the presidency. You only can be initiated. You see, they won't hand over the regards of your presidency to any layman. And he was also a member of the De Molay Legion of Honor. That's the youth or the juvenile department of the Freemasonry. And do you know also who was in the De Molay? Order of De Molay?
I've heard a lot of things, Michael. Go ahead.
Oh, that was this guy.
Really?
Yes, he spoke about that in his sessions, William Cooper.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, and he had also interviews with the Freemason there, and that's my initial thoughts were, okay, there was his origin of his interest in Freemasonry. I'm very afraid to say that this is my ranking of his book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I never read that book entirely, but what I read really did not impress me very much because he's just setting his opinion as truth. I know that maybe you can accuse me of doing so, but I can at least can participate. You can participate in my line of thinking. Yeah, that you see my conclusions, where my conclusions are coming from. Yeah, but he's mentioning so many things that he allegedly came from participate in the naval intelligence, and you never have any real source. You never have that much sources in his books. I'm really ashamed to say, but I really like his Babylon religion series, and I really like him to point a finger to the Osama bin Laden thing. But apart from that, all this UFO stuff and Majestic 12, you see, they can't prove anything. And that's why I never read that book. I don't know why people are regarding that book that high. It's interesting, and you see that I have nothing against him personally. Nothing.
Well, Michael, let's put it this way. You grew up in Germany, and people in the United States we grow up in a different environment. And we put our trust in strange people all the time. And, you know, perhaps it's a little different over there than it is here. And I'll tell you straight up that I followed Bill Cooper for many years, you know, when I was listening to all these crazy cats, these researchers online, because, you know, it was really strange about September 11, 2001, when you started to look on the other side, where, you know, researchers were pointing out some very valid points that were just too large to ignore. And then Bill William Cooper comes out of nowhere talking about, you know, Osama bin Laden, don't you even believe it, you know, a month or months before it occurred. So immediately people are turned on to that. Well, you know, this guy knew something. Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't I listen to Bill Cooper? So, yeah, I think that everyone goes through a phase, Michael, where they're just simply ignorant and they didn't know that they've been hoodwinked by the media. But then when you catch on to that and, oh, okay, I was hoodwinked. So you start listening to people like Bill Cooper. And it's great when you're starting out, but when you get more advanced in your own research, you start to see the holes and the troubles with Bill Cooper.
Mm-hmm. But he's never pointing the finger to Rome, for example.
No, of course not. No.
Almost. I think it was one time he mentioned that, but regularly.
Let's be fair. Let's be fair. Bill Cooper is dead.
Yeah.
He isn't here to defend himself. So that's where I rest my case. He's dead and gone. He died years ago. He was way ahead of the curve as far as, you know, his assertion that Osama bin Laden is the entire you know, what do you call this contraption, whatever, you know, the deception is so well planned in advance that, you know, anyone with his credentials could figure it out. But, you know, the average person like me, forget about it. Just forget about it. In the United States, with just too much going on, man. And, you know, September 11, 2001 hit us all out of nowhere, I think, Michael. Everyone. Mm-hmm. I think the world was shocked at that point.
That's the case with Osama and Obama. You see that one letter decides if you're a hero or if you're dead.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's right. Obama. I forget his.
Barack Obama.
Barack, yeah. I mean, is such a strange character who came out of nowhere, you know. Mm-hmm. And here in the States, you know, it's a real problem with ignorance. I fully admit to it.
Yeah, you see that they had their first black president, and soon it is time for a female president.
So-called black president. He's not black.
I know, but
partially black.
Yeah, but maybe that's soon there is then the right time for a female president. Who knows?
Well, we have a female vice president right now.
Yeah, you see. That's called
the first one ever. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want to take anything away. You see, this Babylon Mystery Religion series is great, and it's a big but. You see that he's coming up with things that you will soon see why I had a very big problem with that. Yeah, really soon to see that. That's just get back to the script now. Gerald Ford, who was being accused of being the pimp. Yeah, he says he classified the back wound to a neck wound and everything else. You see that he wanted to receive the presidency. This is a Warren Commission with Gerald Ford at the time, 32-degree Freemason. Earl Warren being a 33-degree Freemason in the Freemason ritual in the Freemason place on the Freemason temple in the city of Dallas. Well, yeah. Then you got Skull and Bones, Pilgrim Society. You got SMOM, Alan Dulles, who was been fired by Kennedy before. You have Arlen Specter coming up with the insane theory of the single bullet. What to expect? Yeah, so where am I? This Gerald Ford was not only a 33-degree Freemason, but been adopted. Yeah, so that was not his real name. His real name was Leslie Lynch King Jr. And he was part of the Warren Commission. Now, this is very hilarious because a Freemason uncovers a Freemason ritual killing, huh? Sure. Yeah, and he defended for the rest of his life the work of the commission, and he was refusing the theories of the conspiracy around the killing of Kennedy, yeah, which is to me quite logical because otherwise he would not be promoted to receive the presidency. That was just my assumption. Okay, but he was also an actor because he was a model when he was young. You see that is a depiction of him in Cosmopolitan. Yeah, they all are actors. No, Ronald Reagan, Donald Trump, Arnold Schwarzenegger, you don't, or Clint Eastwood was also mayor. You don't think for just a second that these are representative of the John Does or Jane Doe, maybe, because anybody accused me of gender not equality. Jane Doe or John slash, I don't care. Yeah. Yeah, so the Freemasons are everywhere. They're also being accused of having something to do with that Wuhan 400 thing. In the city of Wuhan, and 400 could be the multiply 2020, the year 2020, which comes up to 400. No, and I'm not supposed to use the C word on Brett's channel, which is absolutely fine. But it's just coincidence, of course. Yeah, these are just coincidences everywhere. It happened at the Titanic that there was somebody coming out 20 years ago with the Titan, which happened to collide with an iceberg and then sunk on their Virgin journey to. But you see that it's just a big coincidence. Everything is coincidence. Yeah. So this is coming from the book The Eyes of Darkness from Dean R. Combs. Yeah. This is the Wuhan 400 sickness. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, this is really interesting with the Gematria.
Yeah.
I'm not commenting it. You see that you can stop the video and then you can read it for yourself. Netflix documentary. I don't know. But 33 is all over the place. Which is not surprisingly, because your country has been founded on Freemasonry. And even Mr. Gerald Ford is accused of being related to Mr. Gates. Gates, the name. Being a Knight of Pythias. So see, that has no one here is any representative of any John Doe. They just serve their agenda. At least their agenda is the god called Mammon. That's the least one. So finally, get back to the Kennedy assassination. Now we're getting into full swing, I hope. What happened was he was shot, killed during the motorcade in the car. It is very interesting and key to know why it happened there. And there's a certain Sweet 8F group, a network of political active businessmen in Texas from 30s to the 60s. Who was member of that group? There were some people, and some people also come up with a very strange idea, because John Connally, the governor of Texas then, sitting in front of Kennedy, he happened to be a member of that elite Sweet 8 group. And they talk about that he could, this is not a conspiracy, not theory, that he was a real target because he was in contact with Lee Harvey Oswald. Inside the envelope was a letter from Lee Harvey Oswald. That's very intelligent to do that this way, because now they can spread the next problematic lie. Yeah. In January of 1961, Lee wrote to John Connally pleading his case that his discharge should not have been downgraded. It's about the thing when he was going into the United States, not the United States of the Soviet Union, to the Soviet Union, when he was giving an undesirable discharge. Yeah, that's it. So then
Yeah, isn't that a dishonorable discharge? Is that what you meant?
Yeah, I read it something.
I think
like
that's
this.
the term. You have honorable discharge and you have dishonorable discharge from the military, right?
Yeah. Almost 3 years later, he then out of a sudden decided then to kill Connolly in Dallas, huh? Because he did not respond to his letter. Yeah. That's it. Case closed. Yeah, because he just passed over this information to his successor, but he did not respond personally. That's the reason for the killing. Oh my, this is just time wasting. Sorry, we have to go to the real nitty gritty. So come on. Suit 8F, who was member of it? This is John Connolly here. John Connolly was governor of Texas. And don't forget that he's got a big friend riding behind him, which is Lyndon B. Johnson, because John Connolly happened to be the man for the dirty work of Lyndon B. Johnson, one of them at least, for the so-called Box 13 scandal, where out of a sudden 201 votes were appearing so that he, by an extreme small margin, won the election of being the governor of Texas for Lyndon B. Johnson in the 1940s. Yeah, that was also the work of John Connolly. So these two guys, John Connolly and Lyndon B. Johnson, happened to right here, 2 cars behind the president. These were best buddies. So if you would set any money on who would Mr. Connolly choose when it comes down to Russian roulette between Kennedy and Johnson, you can bet your behind that Connolly would choose Johnson. Also, Johnson was from Texas and Connolly was from Texas, southern states. And there's a bunch of people also who happen to be a member of the Sweet 8 Club, called one of a petroleum company, one of an oil company. One, Lyndon B. Johnson, happened to be the vice president and soon afterwards the president of the United States. Yeah, it's just insane how people are all being together again. It's interesting. When you think about the Oswald thing, yeah, you know that Ruth Payne was the CIA contract taking care of Oswald. Yeah, and her husband worked for the CIA and Bell Helicopters. Bell! What a coincidence here, huh? My. Somebody told me here, if that is correct, her sister from Ruth Payne happened to be connected extremely and drove also Lee Harvey Oswald, if I remember correctly, from the Dealey Plaza. So Ruth Payne, her sister was a CIA agent as well. And her husband worked for Bell Helicopters, the same Bell helicopter that made billions of dollars of the Vietnam War when over 12,000 helicopters were shut down. Don't forget, Lyndon B. Johnson owned Bell helicopter stocks and was worth over $100 million when he died. But it's just another big old coincidence, huh? Oil, Dallas. Dallas is known for oil. And if you refer to the Vietnam War, but you see that oil people, they made billions. You need oil to get all the machinery, to get the tanks, the planes, and the helicopters running. Somebody also made big profit by the Vietnam War. In 1985 was a certain British musician called Paul Hardcastle with his 19 mix. Yeah, using, if you would take care and look the video in YouTube, yeah, you see it's a very catchy song, but the problem is it depicts the dying people. Blood, explosions all over the place. But you make big money with it. If the music is running simultaneously, you don't care. You see that bum, 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 bum. And you see the people dying. So what? It's not me, huh? It's just why was Paul Hardcastle so successful? Because we're living in the Antichrist world. I don't care about the Vietnam War. People will tell me as long as I don't have to participate in it. Yeah, and he says that the average age of the combat soldier would be 19, which is absolutely untrue. It was 23, but 19 being the number of the tarot card when it comes down to the sun. Yeah, so the C19 thing, which happens to be the sun rays. how explicit must there be to avoid the word? Yeah.
Well,
it's
you
all
could
no
say
coincidence.
Corona. That's true.
Are you nuts? Can't speak the truth in the Antichrist world.
Yeah, well, we'll have to beep that out.
Yeah. Yeah, and you see that in that Vietnam War, they used the so-called Agent Orange. Oh, it was not only for the plans. The problem is that people also were affected with their health, big time. But it's just a coincidence. You see, Agent Orange. Orange happened to be the 33-degree when it comes down to sacrifices and sodomy. There's also an Orange Order. There's also a certain Peter Gabriel, which in 1977 or 78 in the German Rock Palace went onto the stage dressed as construction site workers, with orange suits on, and then they were going onto the stage, going onto the ladder, like Jacob's ladder or the ladder of Freemasonry, and then being illuminated on top. Oh, this is so hilarious. We did that Peter Gabriel sessions, and I was so happy that I came up with that. And there's also a country which is known for their orange color. This is the Netherlands here. And the Orange Order was being founded by the King of the Netherlands. Yeah, and Netherlands and another contribution been said as Oranje, yeah, so the orange country. But it's just all coincidence. Yeah, it's all coincidence, like the 666, all coincidences everywhere, Freemasons everywhere, but you see, it's all coincidences. Gets back to the Suite 8 Club. This is Albert Thomas, Subcommittee on Defense, or actually it is war, because we're living in the Antichrist spirit. Everything has been tossed around 180 degrees. Then you got the Walter G. Hall, involved of locating and naming Johnson Space Center, Lyndon B. Johnson, of course, friend to LBJ and his wife, Lady Bird. Wow. All the friends of Lyndon B. Johnson in Texas in the Suite 8 Club. Are there much more to see? There's a Robert Anderson, president of Texas Oil and Gas. There's a Billy Sol Estes. Oh, no, not an entrepreneur, but the one who gave that information that Lyndon B. Johnson has given the order to kill several people, among that his own sister. You got another oil people of Glenn McCarthy of McCarthy Oil and Gas. You got another one of a sugar company. You got another one of Humble Oil. So it seems to be an oil corporation together with some politicians. So the politicians would choose for oil, pro-oil, of course. Yeah, so pro-war. Yeah, it's for the war, because you see that they are all interested in going to war. And the Texas oil magnates Sid Richardson and Clint Murchison Sr., who happened to be the host of the meeting before Kennedy was shot. Where on that meeting, which took place in the home of Clint Murchison, the oil magnate of Texas, there was not only Mr. Hunt of Placid Oil, another oil industry, Eugene B. Germany of Mustang Oil Company, but also David Harold Byrd, the chairman of Byrd Oil Corporation. And do you know, Brett, what Mr. Harold Byrd also owned?
No.
That building.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Where he then took off that famous window here, replaced it, and hung the window on his in his living room or so.
Man.
Yeah. So why did it happen in the Texas School Book Depository? Maybe they wanted to teach him a lesson. Yeah. You see, that's a Texas School Book Depository. They wanted to teach him a lesson, it seems. Yeah. Like in the textbooks. Yeah? Not to mess with the real powerful people behind. Yeah, because LBJ happened to be governor of Texas. Of course, he knows everybody and every fly in the city. And then Connolly, who was riding before Kennedy in the same car, he was then governor of Texas, and they both are very close friends. And also, who was also there on the meeting was Lawrence D. Bell of Bell Helicopter. Yeah, 19 once again, or Vietnam War, anyone? My. You see that if my information is correct, that Bell Helicopter almost went bankrupt before the Vietnam War took off. That's a satanic earth. That's unbelievable. Yeah, you see, that's all pro-oil, all people who wanted to get on the war. Also, who was then being among this meeting was a certain Mr. J. Edgar Hoover from the FBI, who was, of course, his job was to get rid of all the evidence, and his homosexual lover, Clyde Tolson, and much more. Also, the head of the mafia in Dallas, and a certain man called Jakob Rubenstein, later switched his name to Jack Ruby, the alleged killer of Lee Harvey Oswald, and a certain Richard Nixon. And that was the meeting when Johnson went to his mistress, Madeleine Brown, and said, after tomorrow, those SOBs, Kennedys, will never embarrass me again. That's no threat, that's a promise. And later on, she asked him, Lyndon, you've got to tell me, you've got to talk to me. Were you involved with Kennedy's death? And he said, you know the people that I know, the oil people and CIA, they did it. Yeah, and some other people, They did it. So, officially, for the secular world, it was LBJ who was profiting from that assassination. But, and that's a big but, isn't that the only thing? This is a biblical view on conspiracies. You see, everybody who wants to achieve a position in power is anti-biblical. We are all brothers and sisters. But if you're not a Christian and you seem to be a Christian, but you are a SMOM like Mr. Lyndon B. Johnson, well, that documentary, Everything's a Rich Man Trick, says here we can finally answer the riddle on where in an empty street you can hide a man with a rifle and how he can manage to shoot a man in a car without getting to be uncovered, and how he can manage to shoot a man speeding past him in a limousine. The answer is that he can't, and that is why the driver, speaking of William Greer, who was replaced 6 weeks before the assassination, because I think it was Bill Shipman who was the original driver, he passed away with a kind of a heart attack, felt ill after a dinner in Camp David 6 weeks before the assassination. So the new driver, William Greer, looked behind, looked around twice to Kennedy, just seconds or split of a second before the fatal shooting was taking place. William Greer, that's wrong translated, looked around twice to see whether, the first time. This is Jean Hill, this is Mary Moorman, then taking the famous Polaroid, the last picture taken when Kennedy was alive, and stopped the car completely, they say. You see, there's no proof for that it stopped the car, but he slowed it down at least. Because in the view from the other side, so not from the Zapruder view, but from the Auburn Nix film, you see a brake light flashing. That does not indicate that the car stopped. It just indicates that the car was been slammed on the brakes. And I got a very big problem because I cannot take that as big evidence that the car was standing still, because that was most likely an automatic transmission. And usually these cars are just driving very smoothly when no action will be applied, so that you don't step on the brakes and you don't slam on the gas, but you just let it roll. So you see that I don't know the data of that car. I know that it got a big engine in it and so, but maybe he had to slow it down a bit to achieve a certain speed. We know there were indicators, there were green signs on the left pavement for the kill zone, so to speak. And so he had to slow it down, and that he is part of the conspiracy is just absolutely likely. But it's not an indication that he stopped the car entirely. So if the car has not been stopped entirely, a shot on a moving target is not that easy. Okay, so this is just... from that perspective, this is just a very good example that you can see that he's hitting the brakes. If that movie is not been altered, of course. But what you can tell is that it is against the Secret Service protocol. Yes, you see that in case of a danger, and Kennedy was being officially shot here for a few seconds already, then the driver should have slammed on the gas and get out of the danger zone. And he did not. He did absolutely the opposite. He just slowed down the vehicle so that Kennedy was more easy to access. When we go down to that book of William Cooper, Behold a Pale Horse, he talks about a secret government. He talks about an anti-gun lobby and CIA, etc., 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 and he talks about also the driver of William Greer. He claims that if you watch the driver and not Kennedy, when you view the film, all of the witnesses who were close enough to the car see William Greer shoot Kennedy were themselves all murdered within 2 years of the event, and that is not true. That's why I have my really hard time with that book. He says on that page 215, a space probe landed on Mars and confirmed the existence of an environment which could support life. Brett, this is just parroting. This is not research here. Yeah, a space probe landed on Mars. You see, that is just to believe the government. So he believes his information source. Yeah, he was not there, he was not present, he was not involved with anything concerned the National Aeronautic and Space Administration. Yeah, and so that's I got my hard time. You see that where is the evidence for that? Where is the source? This is just fruitless. And so that he says that if you watch the driver and then you watch the film and then you clearly see that Greer shot Kennedy. Yeah, we got another problem with that. He's claiming he is in touch with the John Lear. He's claiming he is in touch with Lars Hansson. The originator of that version of the Zapruder film was Lars Hansson. Yes. And so, which version? There are several copies of that movie. How can you tell if you got the original or a slightly modified, a heavy modified, or what else version? Yeah, that is only not that is just not out of question here for him. That is out of question. Out of question. He's just having his opinion that you see a 45 automatic caliber nickel-plated automatic weapon in his left hand firing over his right shoulder. You see it in relief. You see it has pointing bedbox towards the president. In this enhanced close-up, you see the impact of the bullet upon the president. When we talk about the alleged shooting of Lee Harvey Oswald by Jacob Rubinstein or Jack Ruby, you see also a gun and you see somebody react, but that does not mean that it happened that way. You would need the bullet, you would need the gun, and you would need the wound to make that connection. And then, best of all, fingerprints or something like that. But only to see a gun and then to suppose that that was the gun who struck Kennedy, well, that's a little bit very thin, I'd say. So that is his opinion, what he was seeing. But we have talked about in the last session that the Zapruder film is a fake. And Bill Cooper never talks about the Zapruder film being a fake. This is Bill Cooper's assassination expose, and somebody is refuting Bill Cooper and says, no, it's clearly the top of the head of Kellerman visible here. It's not a gun, okay? So problem is, which one of the Zapruder movie does he use? Because this has also been faked, because you don't see the back window or the side window. Yeah, you don't see the frame of the side window. So this is, and also you see here the green. Yeah, you see where's the street. Yeah, so this is once again, this is a fake movie. And Bill Cooper does not mention the fake Zapruder movie. He claims that he has seen the original movie. So you have a conversation which is totally futile. When you go to the driver, the first one which pops up was that William Greer was a bishop from Ireland, from Irish Greer family of Roan Hill. I don't know if they are related, but it's very interesting that there's another Irish heritage here. But if you really go to the driver of William Greer, in the driver's seat of the Kennedy parade, of the Kennedy car, he was best known as the driver, of course. And he replaced Thomas Shipman, who died on the 14th of October, so 6 weeks before. Yeah, after feeling sick after dinner at Camp David. That's it. Very strange, huh?
Oh, not really, if you know the Jesuit oath.
Yeah. And not really if you know that you see that it's absolutely mandatory that the driver has to slow down the vehicle for several reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and no agents were disciplined for their performance during the shooting. Yeah, Jackie Kennedy was bitterly critical of the agent's performance, but you see, no one was disciplined. Yeah, although it was against the protocol. Yeah, at the beginning of the Dallas trip, the special agent of Emerald Roberts has withdrawn the protection of the Kennedy early on in the Dallas love field. So at the airport, yeah, he was busy recording the Secret Service agents off the car, not on the car, off the car. And so that is the situations moments ago, on the famous Ike Alcon's picture 6. Yeah, you see that the Secret Service is not protecting the president. They're just hanging around. Yeah, they're just having a good time. And even that 1 minute before, you see that this is Clint Hill. He was only ordered to protect Mrs. Kennedy. But you see that on that Houston Street and Elm Street, there was no protection for no one. And you see clearly here the side window with the frame, which is not visible in any Zapruder movie. Oh. Yeah, and the problem now is there is some evidence for the theory of the driver shooting Kennedy. And there is some common sense against it. So there are witnesses. Mary Moorman, a school teacher, standing to Jean Hill. Yeah, when I said that she took that favorite Polaroid. She said she saw Greer shooting back, but he thought it was shooting back at the assassin. Source Warren Commission and tape interview by Fred Newcomb. Also, Jean Hill, so-called Lady in Red, she saw what happened too. But when she tried to bring up the subject of a gun being fired in the car, Senator Al Inspector, yeah, that 33-degree Freemason coming up with that ridiculous single bullet theory, would change the subject or say it's time for a cup of coffee. Austin P. Miller, from Texas Louisiana Freight Bureau, who stood on the railway overpass overlooking Elm Street, was asked by the same art inspector, single bullet theory, where the shots came from. His reply was from right there in the car. So we can suspect that there was a bullet fired in the car. And so you might think that why am I so keen on pointing the finger that maybe William Cooper was not that correct. Hugh Betzner, the man with the famous picture, he says he saw a gun in the hand of one of the Secret Service agents and heard a sound like firecrackers going off in the car. So there were several people, 4 people up to now, who said that there was a shot in the car. So there was a shot in the car. Let's assume that it is correct what 4 eyewitnesses have agreed upon. Yeah, so case is closed. The driver shot Kennedy. William Cooper is correct. Nothing to talk about. Why? That script has 200 more pages. Well, I'll show you. Here shooting JFK is a valid theory. He brings his left hand up over the right shoulder while looking back, and pop, there goes the skull shot in perfect sync. That would be one heck of a coincidence to explain away. And now comes the big but. The but is that also my dear researcher and friend Jerry Eberhardt continuously claiming the fact that this motor cop called Bobby Hargis said that he was being struck by debris and blood and splatter from the alleged headshot of Kennedy. So when Mr. Driver here shoots at Kennedy, he's shooting over his right shoulder from this perspective to the left. How can somebody who's from that perspective, from the right, can be affected by the debris? That's a little bit tricky to explain, I think. So that's the first problem I got with that. Also, the problem I got with that is do you really rely on somebody who's been affiliated with the Dallas police? We know that the head of the Dallas police also is a 33-degree Freemason. So whom to believe? Whom to believe? You can't believe any witnesses. So you have to approach a broader scale, I think. Yeah. So, for example, why is he been struck by debris and not Mr. Clint Hill? Maybe he was a little bit more in front. I don't know. We have to look at that, but no, we have to skip that. That is too soon. My. Yeah, so Bobby Haggis, very interesting. When I look upon Bobby Haggis, he's been stated here not as a cop, but as an actor. Schauspieler means in English actor. And so I don't know whom to believe, actually. Yeah, this is Haggis here with the fatal headshot. Yeah, so this is Haggis. Yeah, he was being struck by this debris. But Mrs. Moorman here, almost at the same spot. Yeah, Brett. Yeah, she doesn't talk about any debris. Oh, pure luck, huh? Pure luck. Haggis was splattered by blood and debris during the assassination. He parked his motorcycle and remained in Dealey Plaza in the aftermath. And where did he park his motorbike? Yes, at the Storm Drawer. There where allegedly also came a shot. Well, whom to believe? If you believe E. Howard Hunt as a prolific spy, he says the Jesuits formed the greatest intelligence service in the world and always have, meaning a greater intelligence service than the CIA. So the head of the CIA, which would make absolutely sense. That would make absolutely sense. You see that you can go into so many different books of Mark Lane and all the things. Yeah, but the key thing to understand, I think, is that in the coup d'etat and the takeover of Guatemala in the 1950s, E. Howard Hunt submitted that the Jesuits formed the greatest intelligence service in the world. Yeah? He said, we have gotten the okay from Cardinal Spellman relating to the Guatemala incident to go ahead with that, and I wouldn't presume to trace the lines of authority within the Catholic Church, how they get the information they deal with. We've always said in an admiring way that the Jesuits formed the greatest intelligence service in the world and always have. If you don't believe E. Howard Hunt, then you have to go to Francis Rooney, the Global Vatican. Yeah, for example. So E. Howard Hunt. So what's the source of that information of Bill Cooper then, when he allegedly said that the driver shot Kennedy? He said that he was in naval intelligence concerned to the CIA. But we know that he was not a high-ranking official in the naval intelligence. And Bill Cooper discussed the Kennedy assassination in another picture. Of course, everything is black here. Yeah, so this is also a forged picture. He says, him and she's in shock. So she's in shock, meaning Miss Kennedy. She's in shock at this time. You see the driver turn around and shooting. Yeah, he says that this is the gun here. Now you got a big problem because also that picture is very blurry. So if Bill Cooper had an extremely good resolution, why don't he show it? And you see also that is frame 313. And he does not mention once that the Zapruder film is a fake. And we know that it's a fake. And that's my problem. He takes everything he sees as granted. And we can't take everything we see as granted. That's my problem. So whom to believe? You can believe the eyewitnesses that they say that somebody fired a shot in the car and that somebody was having a pistol in the car. But you have to be very careful when you draw your line of conclusions from that, because it's just a fake movie. And it's more reliable to go to 4 eyewitnesses, maybe, just maybe, than to that film. He says, you see the driver turn around the pistol in his left hand firing. The Secret Service agent has a weapon. This is an electrical operated gas-powered special weapon. Aha. I said, okay, why? Because it is a little bit more silent, because it's electrical operated gas. Yeah, and that was been also that case when it comes down to a special CIA weapon for the assassination of Fidel Castro. The problem is that Fidel Castro is a Jesuitical trained dictator who never would have been killed because he was protected by the Jesuits. So it is just also forgery that anybody would have an attempt to kill Mr. Fidel Castro. So that is just also another scapegoat, Fidel Castro. Yeah, numerous assassination attempts. Yeah, so, but they failed, Brett. But there was just one assassination attempt on Kennedy, and they succeeded. What a coincidence! So they are playing tricks on us. They are playing tricks on us, I bet. This is an assassination pistol built especially for the CIA. Yeah, source proof. Well.
Oh yeah, Bill Cooper. Speaking of that, yeah, I remember this. Yeah. I remember this.
An air-operated pistol, pneumatic, and it actually fired an exploding pellet which injected shellfish toxin into the president's brain. So itself did not kill. If it itself would have not killed him, the toxin would. Yeah. And he says that, and that is the reason why his brain was switched for another brain in the Bethesda hospital, between the two hospitals. Yeah, that's the reason. Or maybe they have also switched the persons. Yeah. But you see that this is just with no source at all. It's just an opinion here. Yeah, he says Oswald was a patsy. We have a photograph of him actually standing in the front of the Texas School Book Depository, watching the motorcade as he goes by. That is Lee Harvey Oswald there. Yeah. So Bill Lovelady claimed that it was him. You can't tell anything because these things are faked, can easily be faked. Yeah, but Bill Cooper takes the movie and the pictures as granted. Yeah, they have made analysis. Who's they? Yeah, he says we and they, and he has information, but you see, you only see him and without any reference. And now he claims that Mrs. Kennedy saw the assassination of her husband, and she saw that William Greer shot her husband. She tried to get out of the car because she had every reason to believe that she was also the next one to be under attack or so. So she tried to exit that car. And she had to protect her children for the rest of her life. They were guarded by the Secret Service, which absolutely was totally fine because that is his explanation. And I said, wait a minute. These are just claims. This is just opinion here. Yeah, we have to sort out the facts. He's stating that overexposure of the pictures of that movie or of that frames would completely wash out Greer's arms and the gun, which are both in full sunlight and have the effect of rendering both invisible to the viewer. Yeah. So the problem is that he says that Mr. Grodin, who had made the film accessible for the general public, is stupid, but Bill Cooper himself is not doubting the validity of the movie of Zapruder. Interesting enough, and then you see here now a picture or a frame where you see the raised window. So there are certain copies around. And this is also another lower part of the picture. You see that I don't know how many different movies there are out. Yeah, but he only relies on that silly movie.
Yep.
He only relies on that silly movie. He said, "Oh yeah, he turned around and you see the gun." Yeah, and here you can say on the first glance you will say, "Yeah, this is the gun." Yeah, but in the second you see that could also be the head of Kellerman.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
it much more looks like a head to me than
that is not a proof. The only proof that we have are 4 eyewitnesses.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's just all.
Well, to me, when I looked at this years ago, I was really confused by what Bill Cooper had said there, and being that the Zapruder movie is an elaborate hoax, that it's too bad, but once you make statements like that, you can't take them back, can you? Really? Unless you say, "Oh, I was wrong."
Yeah, but the same case as with the alleged killing of Lee Harvey Oswald. You see a gun, you hear a shot, and you see somebody yell. Oh, it is great to see that, but it's just hilarious when you know that Jack Ruby was part of the secret meeting at Clint Murchison's home one day before the event. So this
is a photo right here, Michael, of the
day in Dallas. Yes.
Wow! Look at all those people.
Look at all those people. And look here from that perspective here. That picture is very telling here because maybe you realize what kind of a building this is here.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the old Red Court.
At the end of the road almost, yeah.
Yeah, and this is the main street. And here at the end of the road, the Geely Plaza is.
Yeah, that's right.
So the president is here at the moment. So he is approaching the Houston Street. Mm-hmm. And you see the crowds here are very very deep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are many people around there, and there are flags hanging everywhere. And then you please compare that to the Dealey Plaza movies, where you see only a bunch of people. Engineer for the moment, she said that, oh yeah, this the grassy things on the Dealey Plaza were just restricted area. And also when the photographer called Ike Ortkins was being seen on the triple overpass, he was being sent away by a so-called Dallas policeman. Hmm. Yeah, there's a big difference between the crowds in Dealey Plaza and the crowds in the city of Dallas. Hmm. And there is also missing information, because this is the lead car of the motorcade. This is from the Dallas Police Chief Jesse Curry. Yeah? He was chief at the assassination of President Kennedy, and he was a member of the St. John's United Methodist Church, and also he was a Freemason, 33 degree. So I bet that he knew it all. He was a Freemason as well as J. Edgar Hoover, as well as Abraham Zapruder. That's all Freemasons. Sure, he was the head of the police in Dallas. What do we expect, huh? And where was the Dallas police located? Huh? In Dealey Plaza, in the Houston Street. What do you expect? And you know where Abraham Zapruder worked? He worked in the Deltex building. That's the building exactly on the other side of the Houston Street, on the other side of the Texas School Book Depository. This is all inside. This is all inside jobs. This is all insiders. No one appears here on random. No Jack Ruby came on random. He was being instructed on the night before the assassination. There are Freemasons everywhere. They talk about the hollow earth and the black sun and all the gibberish there. Yeah, and it's sometimes very hilarious when they say, "Oh yeah, the distance from the moon to the Earth is 3,300 miles." Yeah, sure. Oh my, oh my. So the vehicle you just saw was from Jesse Curry, and that was the vehicle for the pilot car of the motorcade. It was a white Ford driven by. Oh, sorry. Description. Okay, I made an error. Okay, so this is not Jesse Curry's car, sorry, but this has been related here. The vehicle was a pilot car for the motorcade, a white Ford by Dallas Police Deputy Chief George L. Lumpkin. Mm-hmm. The pilot car drove ahead of the motorcade behind a group of motorcycle officers. Sheriff Bill Decker rode in the next car, driven by Chief Jerry Curry. Okay, and now it gets really interesting. The president's limousine was actually number 6 in the motorcade, because you also had 4 motorcycles there. And that's why I came up with my interesting computer game called JFK Reloaded, where you can achieve points when you behave correctly according to the Warren Commission, but you will lose points if you don't behave like the Warren Commission said that the assassination happened. Aha. And that is a shot of the computer game, which I have been playing for several weeks now, trying to achieve any possible feat in the assassination of Kennedy. And what do you see here? You see a police car in front. And that's also what you see in the Ortkins 7 picture. Mm. But, and that's a big but, Ortkins 7. Yeah? Oh, that's a really, really bad solution. We take this. You see that car here? But where is that car in this Zapruder movie? That car must be lost in the missing frames. You only see 2 motorcycles in the Zapruder movie. You don't see the pilot car, you don't see the other 2 motorcycles, and you don't see the police car of Jesse Curry. So there is much information missing in a Zapruder movie. Remember that we have just learned that the presidential limousine was just number 6 in the parade. Yeah, this is 5. Where is 1, 2, 3, 4? We have only seen 2 motor cops on a Zapruder movie with the frame 001. 001. Yeah, and that's all you see. You see here a motorbike, and you see some motorbikes. Maybe you have now 3. Okay, I'll give that to you. You don't see the pilot car, and you don't see Jesse Curry's car. Yeah, because then when the limousine appears, it appears out of a sudden. Yeah, you see the motorbikes riding behind the presidential car, but you don't see motorbikes riding in front of the presidential car. Neither you see in the Zapruder movie the 2 police cars in front. And you don't see that also in that Orville Nix picture. Yeah? You see them, like in the Altgen 6 picture, you see them in that computer game. Yeah, you see that car, but you can't see that in the Zapruder movie. So why didn't they show you? The official explanation is that between many frames, when the presidential limousine here was making this left-hand turn more than 90 degrees, allegedly 110 degrees, offshore 11 for Freemasonry, it was having a bad time. He was the pilot had a bad time and was almost scratching the pavement here, and so he had to correct in a very rude manner, so that they didn't want to have it on the picture. I think it serves another purpose, to distract the people to the presidential limousine and to get the action and the distraction and the concentration away from the people in Dealey Plaza. For example, if the presidential limousine had not made that error, Mr. Ike Aldkins could have not achieved to change his position from the Houston Street to the Elm Street, shooting his favorite picture, Aldkins 6. Yeah, you see, if you compare Aldkins 3, or if you compare, I think it was Aldkins 4. Aldkins 4, yeah, I wanted to have Aldkins 5. Yeah, where is it? Aldkins 5. Why aren't they numbered? That is what I meant. Yeah, you see that he was standing here making that picture. Yeah, if they would have driven here, this is already the crossing here, Brett. If they have driven here left side, then how can he achieve it to run over the entire grass of the Dealey Plaza in time? And then to shoot the next picture, Aldkins 6. The distance covered, this is Aldkins 6. I know he's got a teleobjective, so that he was standing a little bit further away. But you see that to change the position from that end to this end here, that would also explain why maybe they needed a little bit more time to get some things. I don't know. Yeah, it's very interesting to know that the missing information is that the limousine almost hit the pavement. Yeah, and so they had corrected that, and so they lost a little bit of time, maybe on purpose here. But that's just my assumption. Let's get it on with the script. You see that in that video movie here, in that in the computer game JFK Reloaded, you get rewards when you shoot the president the way that the Warren Commission said how that Lee Harvey Oswald did it. Yeah, and every time that it approaches here from the sniper's nest, you see 1 police car in front. You don't see 4 motorbikes, and you don't see the pilot car. But at least you see that car, which is not appearing in the Zapruder movie. Never ever. And you see, that is very interesting, because there is a certain author, which I'm not highly regarding. That man died and is called Jim Mars. And Jim Mars says, okay, that was a clear violation of the Secret Service regulations, because at the first sign of trouble, you have to accelerate and to drive out of the danger zone. And he says that cannot be true, that the driver shot Kennedy is not true, he says, primarily because it simply didn't happen. Yeah? And now you see his reason. He says that Nellie Connelly, whom I knew personally, would have talked. Brett.
Sorry, Michael, what was that?
Jim Mars.
Yes, you did.
Said it was a violation of Secret Service regulations, because the driver had to accelerate to get rid of the danger zone. Yeah, so he said that the driver shot Kennedy theory is not true. It did not happen because someone in the crowd would have said something. Well, there were 4 people who said something, at least. And comes the big and Neddy Connelly, yeah, so the wife of the governor, John Connelly, whom I knew personally, would have talked. Sure.
Oh,
So that is your independent researcher. Yeah, and now you know the reason why I don't trust Mr. Jim Mars. If he's personally in touch with the wife of the governor, John Connelly, yeah,
I get
Neddy Connelly will know almost everything about the assassination. Yeah? Sorry, guys, but that's a wrong attempt to that is just sorry but that I have to explain that. Yeah, that these films do prove nothing. Yeah. So right. Therefore, you can't rely on the pictures, on the movies, etc. You have to think on your own. Yeah, you see what's that reflection. This is just a ridiculous resolution here. You can't tell really what is going on there. Can't tell exactly. Yeah, so people really think that, oh yeah, tinfoil hats and also things. Yeah. So everybody is having an argument. That's divide and conquer. Huh? I will hand over some valid arguments now out of common sense. Yeah, out of common sense. You don't have to rely on Bill Cooper, on Jim Mars, on anyone else, on any pictures, but on common sense. On real common sense. Yeah, you see so many resolutions. You see that street is missing here. This is all fake movie here. These are fake frames. Or lost frames and mixed around and tossed around. I don't know. Yeah, you won't get anywhere with all that. You see that the street is not ending here, huh? Oh my. Yeah. So we know that Greer turned around and he behaved the opposite what his instructions were. But yeah, this is the famous Polaroid of Mary, much more standing beside the lady in red, Jean Hill. I don't know if that happened right at the point of impact on the bullet, because you see here some fragments or artifacts, but this is just an old picture. Can't really tell what's what.
I've got a little assertion here to run by you, Michael. What happened if Greer, the driver, was just simply looking back so he could see it with his own eyes?
Mm-hmm.
And he knew exactly when it was going to happen. How about that?
Yeah, he had the yellow markings on the curb. Yeah, sure.
And he thought, absolutely. I'm the driver of this car, and if this is going to happen, I want to see it with my own eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the people really saw or really said, that the sound came from the president's car.
That's right.
Yeah, so there must be something happening, but what did happen in what kind of order? And that you can't be.
You're talking about eyewitnesses that actually testified that.
Yes, and that is a thing that you would never see in the Warren Commission officially, or at least on the Wikipedia. You won't see that. Yeah. No. So what you see is the situation which appeared that in shot 313 officially Kennedy's head seems to explode. Yeah. There's a big problem with that, because it seems like if some orange or red things are emitting out of his head in the front. But when you see in the Parkland Hospital in Dallas, they made the examination there. It appeared a big hole in the back of the head. Yeah. So how can something emit in the front and you don't have any picture from the damaged front of the president, but on the big hole in the head? Yeah, that does not make that much sense, huh? So that here would support the theory that the shot came from behind. But the autopsy does not prove it, because on the autopsy he's got a big head exit wound, at least at the Parkland Hospital, not in the second hospital, in the Bethesda Hospital, but was a Navy hospital, yeah, run by the military. Yeah, because this is just, for me, this is just spoof. This is just spoof. This is a Dutch deception to make it appear as if the shot would have come from the back. So that's the situation. In the moment of the impact, or almost at the moment of the impact, you have here the driver looking back. But that would not be his job. His job would be to drive the vehicle. That's why he called a driver. In every picture, which is faked because sometimes the window is missing, and of course here is a street, so it does not fit. The street is 3 lanes. You only see the car, and not only the car, you don't see the wheels. Come on, the grass is not 6 inches high, or 4 inches, or 6 inches, or 5 inches high. It's a fake picture. They can tell you and show you everything. You can't rely on any picture. I don't get it that people don't get it, that they can't rely on the pictures. At least not when it comes down to the shooting, the shot, or the direction. You don't know if that is correct. You don't know if the autopsy is correct. I bet the autopsy of the Park and Hospital, that seems to be an exit wound, not an entry wound. So the shot most probably came from the front. There are dozens of people who say, it came from the right temple, or in the right temple. And that is one of the first. So where is the orange thing exiting out of the front of the president? How is it possible to exit something out of the front president's? When Bobby Hargis said that he was struck by debris when he was riding on the left side behind the president. But on the picture 313, you see clearly that it's emitting in the front. So where it's taking place? It's taking place in the front. Oh, of course, then he's accelerating that much that everything flew back, You see, you can't take this picture, this movies for real. They tell you what they like to tell you, but it's not evidence. Because we know that the Zapruder movie has been faked. And every picture which is missing the side window is more faked, even more faked. Like this. It's even more faked. So it's a fake. See that side window here. Where is the side window there? Where's the chrome frame? Or maybe that is the chrome frame and then it's missing here, No, it can't be, because the frame just stops there when the position of Mrs. Kennedy on the third row of seats is starting to begin here. So that window must have appeared here. But there is no frame.
No, there's no glass.
So it is
frame.
fake. It is fake. And you see the chrome frame. It's fake. F-A-K-E. You see, it's absolutely fake. You see here the frame. But you don't see here the frame. I think that would be too hard to fake in that on that regard, I think. But you see that you have to get back to common sense, really. You can't tell anything about this shitty things. You can do this with all the things. You can stuck your head in the mud. And said, I'm over. It's over. The session is too long. I can't concentrate anymore. So we do not know. You can't prove anything. Some people say that Zapruder didn't watch his movie. He also gave it to the Secret Service agent who passed it then on to the photo lab and blah, blah, blah. You can't prove anything yet. You don't rely on any witnesses. You have to make up common sense. And Mrs. Jean Hirsch just thought, oh goodness, the Secret Service is shooting back. But if that is too simple, then we can make it much more harder. If you think that is too simple, this is Jean Hirsch, by the way. She said, oh yeah, the Secret Service is shooting back. You see that she's looking at the president here, okay? So what do you think that she's meaning with the Secret Service? She cannot mean the people in the car behind, because she's not looking at the car behind. She's looking and saying that there is a sound coming out of the. He said that somebody is putting out a gun to shoot back. So it highly likely can be Mr. Greer. Can be. But that does not prove that Kennedy has exploded because of the bullet of Mr. Greer. Yeah, that's circular reasoning. That has nothing to do with the truth. She says, because I guess from the TV and movies that it was Secret Service agents shooting back. To me, if somebody shoots at somebody, they always shoot back. And so I just thought that that's what it was. And I thought, well, they are getting him and shooting back. You know, I didn't know. At the same time, she was interviewed by Mr. Spector, and she says that she saw or heard a shot from the grassy knoll. I said it's too easy. And now we will make it a little bit more complicated, because she offers compelling ear witness testimony for a grassy knoll shot, which is the red herring promoted by Hollywood and disinfo clowns like Roden and Fetzer. Everybody, of course, has to be distracting the people to put the people's concentration on the grassy knoll. I say that all these things have to be taken into consideration. The official death certificate of JFK has been stated multiple gunshot wounds of the head and neck. So most probably there were some wounds of JFK in the back and in the head. But where did they appear? I need your common sense. Common sense tells you that when you want to get rid of the president, you have to get rid of the president at any cost. You can't risk 20% effort, because if he would survive, then all hell would break loose. Yeah, so it has to be very certain that he will die. So you must be very sure. And can you be very sure when you try to shoot a president from 100 yards on a more or less moving vehicle? Or wouldn't it be much more easy to get him when he can't get away? You see that driving somebody or shooting somebody in the car is hilarious as long as the car is standing, because you have an immovable object, because he cannot escape that easy on the car. But taken that situation that we got here in that interesting movie or interesting computer game, you see that is the situation here. Connolly, allegedly been shot, is leaning over to his wife, and Mrs. Kennedy is trying to comfort Mr. Kennedy. So that is the official explanation now. And of course, this is wrong here, because now Mr. Greer has to turn right and has to shoot with his left hand the president, which would, from the angle, absolutely fit Brad, because Connolly got away. It would have been much more difficult to shoot Kennedy if Connolly would have not been hit, if he was hit, and then would block the view for the driver. So that is the reason, apparently, why Connolly had to duck and cover, to make the way free for the shooting of the president by Bill Greer. But that's only theory. That's only theory, because we can make it more complicated, because there are even more theories that it was the Secret Service who shot Kennedy, and it was somebody driving in the car behind. Yeah, but these are also shooting holes in the theory that the Secret Service agent killed President Kennedy. The name is here Hickey. George Hickey has been seen brandishing a rifle as the limousine carrying a wounded President Kennedy with Agent Clint Hill on the back speeds away from Dealey Plaza. One theory is that Hickey accidentally shot JFK. So let the guy with that AR-15 rifle, which is much more precise than the old shitty Manicha Carcano rifle that allegedly Lee Harvey Oswald used, that is ridiculous. But the only reason to come out with the Carcano rifle is that it is of Italian origin, if you know what I mean. Yeah, but that would absolutely then prove the theory that Greer was shooting back. Sure, if Kennedy was being struck by a bullet, then Greer would have shot him back. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, you really think so? And these are very, very, very bizarre theories, But they will use every theory every few years. These agency, our counterintelligence agency, will use some theories to lead the destruction of the vehicle to another location outside. First, it was the Texas School Book Depository. Then it was the grassy knoll. Later, then it was Mr. Hickey, the shooter of the follow-up car. Then it was the storm sewer. And now, would not be surprised, because this week I read an article of somebody who was claiming that there was a Romanian wedding party taking place a few hundred yards off the GD Plaza, and they were having some gunshots in the air, and one of them struck Kennedy. I really read that. Yeah? I'm sorry, but you see that these people are come up with hilarious things. So, whom to believe? Yeah, but to believe E. Howard Hunt, a spy. Or would you like to believe Mr. Winston Lawson, who was officially been responsible for the route of the Kennedy in Dallas on that day, and they play tricks and left-right with you because he was being educated in the counterintelligence, so against intelligence school in Maryland, and he was responsible for the trip of Kennedy and Lyndon B. Johnson. Yeah. Now you got a big problem, because whom to believe? Yeah, because officially Kenneth O'Donnell was being responsible for the route, and Roy Kellerman and Jesse Curry also had their play with it. And Curry was insisting, so the police chief, that Winston Lawson was the person who made all the major decisions. Later on, somebody else was claiming that Kenneth O'Donnell took the decision to take off the bubble top, or to take off the top of Kennedy's limousine, so that he could ride in the convertible with an open top, so without any protection. Although, and although, that's the point here, although the roof would not have any more impact because it was not bulletproof, but nevertheless, okay. So, my conclusion of it is, think of the following. This is the lead car of Police Chief Jesse Curry, seen here on the, I think it is maybe the main street. I don't know at the moment. So, of course, he is equipped with police radio. And all of their cars are equipped with police radio. This is the Police Chief Jesse Curry. And then on the other hand, you got on the passenger seat, beside Mr. Driver Will Greer, you got Roy Kellerman, who is the radio controller of that car, the presidential limousine. And we know of Lyndon B. Johnson in the car, 2 cars behind Kennedy, who, according to Senator Jabro, if I remember correctly, said that he was ducking down when the car approached Elm Street, and he was listening to his walkie-talkie, but I could not understand something because it was not loud enough. Why would you use somebody with an umbrella to signalize that JFK was not fatally shot when you got police radio? We are talking here about a 33-degree Freemason. And we talk about 1963. So they had the possibility to use a secret code or a secret channel which nobody could access. Yeah, between the police chief, between the presidential limousine, and between the Lyndon B. Johnson. So, for example, that Lyndon B. Johnson knew exactly when Kennedy would be shot by listening to his walkie-talkie, because then in the moment that President Kennedy would have been shot, maybe, just maybe, Roy Kellerman would have talked to police radio, oh, we need help, the president has been shot, or we have been shot, or what else? Aha. And there were other people too in GD Plaza who was carrying walkie-talkies. This is one very famous picture of somebody who has his walkie-talkie or radio or what else been in his back pocket. And there were more people also equipped with police radio. You see here one of the trams, the last tram allegedly to be E. Howard Hunt. And you see that policeman here also wearing some kind of in-ear radio transmission. Yeah? So there were few people around there who were being connected, and that is a thing that you have to, I think, to take into consideration when it comes down to Kennedy. Yeah, you don't need any people waving, shouting, what else to signalize if the president has been hit. This is ridiculous. We are talking about 1963 and not 1500. And I bet that these transmissions or these transcripts will never appear in the public. Yeah, even not in 100 years.
Of course not. Of course not.
Yeah. But compare that also. You see the lead car of police chief, you see then the Kennedy car, and you see that Lyndon B. Johnson, which I have not depicted here, and then also these people in GD Plaza. They're all connected with police radio or special police radio. Hmm? Apart from the fact that there's also several police channels, channel 1 and 2, for all these motorbikes. Huh? And you see, this is Didi Plaza here. You see the people standing here. It's not the crowds of people. Some people here now. This is more like the Queen Mary here. This Secret Service car with all the people standing upon. Yeah, but the Jesuits are the most greatest intelligence service in the world. So, what do you think? That's money is not an issue. In 1963, according to my knowledge, walkie-talkies were not common. They were only restricted to military personnel. But we are talking about the military operation. We're talking about the CIA, FBI, Freemasons, Dallas police. We're talking not about laymen here, John Does. Huh? He says the Jesuits had formed the greatest intelligence service. Well, if you want to cover any information, then it would be very, very intelligence that you can control every information and that you receive the information first. You have to receive the information first. You see that they are so potent of their possibilities that even Lyndon Johnson, 1 year before in 1962, he said, who he controls the weather will control the world. And now, 60 years later, we're seeing that harvest will be destroyed, that the rain is missing, thunderstorms, etc., etc. And who's to blame? Yes, mankind. God's people are being to blame, because of CO2 emissions. Yeah. And it's hard because you see the truth has been hidden under a pile of rubbish. It's very hard when they speak about the man-made climate change. Yeah, then it's not incorrect. But the usual John Doe says, okay, it's me to blame because I'm smoking too much, I'm driving too much, and don't know what else. But it's just them, who are controlling the weather. That's what he said in 1962. And what he admits secretly is that they are about to control the weather. It's not only the American Air Force who said in 1995, I think it was a strategy, that they will control the weather by 2025 or so. But you see why they would have a hard time driving around a convertible in Dallas when it would have rained, Red, huh? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so meet the Secret Service. Okay, no, we make another approach. This is the computer game. JFK Reloaded. And I made so many attempts to shoot anybody except the president here, except the first time, which I had to go according to the official theory. So in that game, you can do whatever you want, but the problem is that the driver is not allowed to shoot the president.
To sell will shall be the whole of the law, Michael.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So you got now 6.
I had to throw that in there, Michael.
So this is JFK Reloaded. Yeah, you can show all the bullet paths. You can show it from different perspective on the Didi Plaza. It's really interesting to go in it. And I ask here in German, what if? Yeah. So this is a presidential limousine, and you see now the positions of the people here. Yeah, so that is Bill Greer here, and he would have to shoot with his right arm Kennedy here in the right temple. Yeah, so that Mr. John Kennedy had to get rid out of the way, so to speak. So that would be absolutely likely that was the reason why he was ducking down. Okay, so but, and the big but. Imagine the consequences on all the actions. First of all, this is the official explanation of the Warren Commission. Yeah, you see that in 2 languages. I did that in 2 languages. Yeah, you see first Kennedy was struck. Yeah, there it is. Also, Connolly was struck at nearly the same time from that magic or single bullet theory. But he was carrying his head. And officially, he was being shot also in his right wrist. How can you hold firm a head when you have been struck with a bullet in your wrist? So that was what was keeping me busy, and I thought, okay, that he's an actor. Yeah, I don't know. He was just 3 days in hospital because of multiple wounds in his back, in his thigh and in his wrist, if I remember correctly. Yeah, and he showed some X-ray, but you see, you can fake everything when it comes down to the government, right? So that is the official explanation. So one shot to actually hit 2 people. You don't see Greer looking back now. I'm sorry, I cannot show you that. Yeah. But now then Kennedy was fatally hit here on the head. I succeeded in doing so. Yeah. And yeah, that is wrong because he had to also be found in the arms of his wife. Yeah, both of them actually are. Yeah, and so these two are just having a good time here in front. Yeah. But now imagine the problem which occurs when you have somebody shooting at a vehicle from any perspective. And I have to take into consideration that even that simple, cheap computer game here is displaying the location of the DD Plaza more realistic than in a Zapruder movie. Isn't that hilarious?
Mm-hmm.
So imagine the case that if somebody would have taken into consideration to shoot the president from behind, from the side, from the front, whatsoever, outside the vehicle, what could have appeared? The problem is that this is just not only a vehicle, this is an open vehicle, and you see here metal frames around the windscreen and around the bar here. Yeah, so that every bullet which could have struck somebody could have also been misled here by any metal fragment. Yeah, and it's not only that the windscreen has got 1 bullet, and also the frame here also got 1 bullet. That's very interesting. But apart from that, really think about the into common sense. What could have happened if somebody was shooting at the president and was missing the president? For example, the driver, which would be absolutely worst case scenario, that you try to shoot the president, for example, from behind. Yeah, and then you have an angle where either you miss the president or are you shooting the driver, and then what would happen? Yeah, that would have happened. That's a little bit exaggerated, I know. I did it on purpose. You can insert it here, realistic or not realistic, but you see, every time you only have to take out the driver, yeah, to absolutely disable the entire car. Yeah, and shooting off the head of Connolly. And that's the problem. You see that if you miss something by shooting at JFK from outside the car, it is highly likely that you will hurt or even kill somebody else. At least when the car is speeding, not so much when the car is standing still. But even then, there are so many possibilities that that the car is reflecting sunlight with the metal frame, that you will be blocked off your view, and that it will be distracted by all the metal parts in it. Yeah, so it is very, very, very dangerous and difficult to get the president. You don't get it from every angle. Yeah, so this is from the perspective of Zapruder. Yeah, and then when you shoot the driver, which I did here, yeah, then all hell breaks loose. And if he slams on the gas out of an instinct reaction, for example, then all the people would have been injured. Yeah. So what would have happened? Yeah. You see also the distance between the 2 cars. If he would have stopped rapidly, you see that these were having a big time or a bad time. And this is an impossible angle here. If you shoot somebody from the grassy knoll, yeah, from that perspective, from the grassy knoll, you see, then the bullet from Kennedy would have got out of his head into the trunk, most likely, or in the street, or maybe into the tire of the motorbike man. And you see here the distance between the 2 cars when somebody would have slammed on the brakes is also very problematic. I don't know if these proportions are correct with the distance between the 2 cars, but nevertheless, by the way, this is Lyndon B. Johnson here. And did you see all the antennas on the back of the motor on the presidential limousine? Yeah, these are radio antennas. And he's having a walkie-talkie. I don't think that he's listened to the last football game. So, for my humble opinion, from the grassy knoll, that's an impossible angle. Because it's a down angle also, so I don't think that is likely, because taking into consideration the exit wound of the presidential head back, then it would appear that this bullet maybe would have been struck into the head, so that not a full metal jacket, but if it would have been a full metal jacket, it would be landed onto the trunk, and then it would be clearly visible that there was a hole in the trunk. So every time I shoot the driver, yeah, something bad appears. Yeah. If there would be a collision, for example, there were no safety belts, there were no seat belts. Yeah. So they had to drive very carefully and very slowly to avoid any collision. It's absolutely exaggerated here. Yeah. To make the point, and I like to apologize, it's not the Christian way maybe of pointing that, but sometimes you have to overdo it to really make the point. If you shoot somebody in an open vehicle or in a not open vehicle, yeah, then the chance that something will get terribly wrong is very high. Yeah, so every time I only have to take out the driver to stop the limousine, or just to the opposite, to accelerate the limousine. Yeah, but in the case of a collision, all hell also will break loose. And that's not only the problem with that video game. You see here the magic head of Connolly. This is very interesting here, because it's a magic bullet. There's also magic head. Yeah, this is Carnival in Dallas. Yeah, here we go, and here we go again. But you really have to think about that. If you approach from the outside to that car, everything can be a mess. For example, if you do not if you just do not finish the shooting and that the bullet will not land in the desired target, then what would appear? Somebody else in the car would be hurt or injured or killed. Yeah. So if I shoot here, I would then try to shoot, and then I shot Mrs. Kennedy. Yeah. But then I shot to the head, and that succeeded finally. Yeah. Also, it's a big risk for the Secret Service. You know, it's exaggerated here, but in case of a collision, what would have happened? Yeah, that would have happened. If they would had to brake for the presidential limousine, I think it would very hard for the people to hold fast to the car. Yeah. So every time it is more easy also to shoot anybody on the Houston Street. Yeah, but of course, they had to take the Elm Street because of the, Of course, they had to do the Elm Street because it's a street of death, and it's there when the Dealey Plaza or the temple is starting. Temple is starting in the line of Osiris. That's where the entrance of the temple is. And that's the last picture of that strange JFK Reloaded movie, which we will use quite soon. So this is the Secret Service, and you see here, this is a picture 1 year ago, in November '62. This is Roy Kellerman, the man on the passenger seat. Yeah, these are the three people who have been questioned by the Warren Commission. This is Clint Hill, the personal bodyguard of Mrs. Kennedy, who then jumped on the car when everything happened. This is Roy Kellerman, the radio operator in the presidential car, and this is Will Greer. And this is Roy Kellerman once again, and this guy is very underestimated, I think, because he was the assistant special agent in charge, Brett. Question: was Mr. Greer allowed to take out the president? I'm sorry, I didn't want to wake you up, but
I'm drawing a blank, Michael. I don't know what to say.
you see that the driver, William Greer, was just special agent. But the passenger, on the passenger seat, the radio operator, Roy Kellerman, he was the assistant special agent in charge. So he was the supervisor of Mr. Greer. So no shooting could have taken place without the noticing of Roy Kellerman and without the approval of Kellerman, because we are speaking about the Secret Service hierarchy here. In case that you mentioned that Greer shot the president, then it meant that the Secret Service were part of it. And of course, it would mean that anybody in that car would have noticed that Greer was shot. If there is a bullet approaching in the car, that everybody would have known that.
Yeah, right.
Also Mrs. Connolly. Yeah. But that was part of the deception. So that means that it is so highly unlikely that any shooting appeared from the outside. It's just more likely, according to 4 or 5 eyewitnesses at least, that the shooting took place in the car. And then the assassination of Bill Greer also makes sense. But, and it's a big but, would you really risk that to hand over the task of killing the American president for a driver? So the man has to drive, to steer, to brake, to look behind back, and then to shoot the president. You can't come up with a better idea for a bulletproof killing than to hand it over to the driver, whose official job is to drive. But that would mean that the supervisor of the attack is Roy Kellerman. That's that friendly guy over here. So, and he stated to the Warren Commission that there were a flurry of shells coming into the limousine that reminded him of a jet sonic boom sound quickness. That's his testimony, a flurry of shells. So, of course, why? Because he made it appear as if the attack was coming from the outside. And this session has been called, for many reasons, inside job. That's why you've been keeping busy with grassy knolls, windscreens, Texas Schoolbook, Dell text buildings, and all the other solutions, but never from the passengers in the car itself. A flurry of shells, and of course that's the proof of that is that you got the dent in the windscreen and you got a dent in the frame. And anybody would say, yeah, I know that was from the outside, that was a conspiracy because I saw the multiple gunshots. Yeah, what you see is multiple holes, not multiple gunshots, because where are the bullets? Where are the shells? Where is the gun? Where are the suspects? You see, you can fake everything. I don't know who did that, but apart from me, that it was too risky to shoot the president through the windscreen. Why? There is somebody driving that car. Is that enough of a reason? Sure, when it comes down to this, I don't see any bullet here, but you see that when was that picture been taken? That was been taken more likely at the Parkland Hospital. And it's a long way from the TD Plaza to the Parkland Hospital. Anything can happen. You see, these people are masters in deception, and you can't trust any of them. All the people in that car here are people striving for power. He helped Johnson with his election scandal. He's the supervisor of Bill Greer. Bill Greer just replaced Shipman. Nobody here would talk if that was a conspiracy. Nobody. And Kellerman also was in charge as the controller of evidence. Immediately after the assassination, he managed events, continued to develop, and he was including guiding the doctors towards special conclusions regarding bullet locations. And yeah, he was the man in charge here. He was the man in charge in the presidential limousine. So if anybody knew the most, then it is Roy Kellerman and not Will Greer. Yeah, that is a strange thing with the Kennedy assassination. And when they arrived at Dallas Parkland Hospital, after the Martyr Park, then to the Parkland Hospital, You see here, that's a cover in the limousine, that you can't look inside and you can't collect any shells or anything. They are protecting everything. And then the Secret Service or anybody else was protecting the car from access. Yeah. And Kellerman was in charge of the local events. Yeah. They're getting rid of all the evidence. And that's why it is impossible to solve the riddle. But you can clearly think that it is more easy to kill somebody from 2 or 3 foot distance, but then in 100 distance on a slightly moving object, huh? Yeah, Kellerman said there was no conspiracy. Later on, his widow said, yes, he said that there was a conspiracy. I don't care what somebody says. These are just Secret Service guys. Would you trust that guy to take care of your daughter? That's not his job, huh? His job is not to think, his job is to obey. And this is him together with Lyndon B. Johnson. No actions were taken by the agents in the right front seat of the presidential limousine to cover the president with his body, although it would have been consistent with Secret Service procedure to him to do so. But they had other things to do. Mr. Kellerman had other things to do. He helped protect Roosevelt, Truman, Eisenhower, and Kennedy. Yeah? Then in '62, he was promoted and given the title of Assistant Special Agent in charge of security. And then he was asked to prepare for the presidential trip in Dallas, Texas. Involved discussions with Kenneth O'Donnell. Yeah, he one who was allegedly been responsible for the driving without a top on the car. And together with Winston Lawson, Secret Service agent in charge of the trip, and Jesse Curry, chief police in Dallas. Yeah, and he was the radio operator, once again. Kellerman later told the Warren Commission that Kenneth O'Donnell made the decision to remove the bubble top. Yeah, playing tricks with you, huh? Really, you can't trust any one of them. You can't trust any one of them. They absolutely knew how it went. Yeah, these all people are initiators. These are insiders. If you have an inside jobs, you need insiders. Everybody here knew how it happened. And if there was a bullet in the windshield, you see that it could appear on several occasions. Yeah, on several occasions, not necessarily in the few seconds when the shooting of Kennedy is. Although it has officially been visible in the Altgen 7 picture. But you don't know which picture has been modified. I don't see any eyewitnesses who said during the Elm Street Dealey Plaza that they saw a bullet flying through the windshield. All the testimonies, all the witnesses said they saw the dent or the hole in the windscreen at the Parkland Hospital. But not in the Dealey Plaza. In the Dealey Plaza, you only see pictures who are depicting it could have been an impact on the windscreen. But nonetheless, yeah, you see that is so highly likely. They can make everything. You see that picture has been taken by Ike Alkins. And he's shooting the president. He's stepping out into an open road when the presidential limousine is arriving and nobody takes care of him. So I know that I don't want to have any theories here circling around, but you see, it would have been very easy for Ike Alkins not to shoot the picture of the presidential car, but to shoot the president here from that lane. Because also the angle would fit. But you got several problems with that theory because you are just placing people in danger who are sitting here beneath. So imagine that shot would have gone miss. Yeah, so that you got some private bystander here, and then they appear to a private hospital, and then they retract a bullet, and then they open the case. So that I don't think that they would have done so. It would not have been very wise to do so. I think it's more wiser to kill him inside the car. Yeah. Also, you see that been doors open here at the car behind Johnson. Yeah, and when you have a close-up on that car, you see something which looks like an arm. And many people say that this is just not an arm. Oh, sorry, I thought I could enlarge it here. Yeah. Yeah, you see it here. It looks like an arm with some disguise. It even looks like a Roadrunner or something like this. Yeah, and that could also be the sound of a firecracker that many witnesses were talking about. Speaking of that, somebody distracted the crowd into believing that a gunshot was fired. You can also fire a blank in the air, and no shell will be found. Can fire a blank in the air, so every evidence will get rid of with the Dallas police and FBI. So you don't have any shells left, or only the 3 ones which must have been found in the Jackson School Book Depository. So what I'm trying to tell is here why are the doors opening and that vehicle here in the exact time when Kennedy was going to his throat. Yeah, maybe this has been opened for 1 or 2 or 3 seconds already. Yeah, but then you could have shot into the air or what else? I don't know. Yeah, so it is very suspicious that something is happening inside the motorcade. And you can't tell where the shots have been coming from, of course, in DD Plaza, because you have all the echoes between the buildings here. You can't say that shot came from the Dexter School or depository or for the Dell Tex or what else. Can't tell that exactly here because there's bang, 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 all the echoes. Yeah, so it's hard to tell what happened there. And it's not my task. Yeah, my task is to add the connection to the people and to the things behind. Yeah, but once and for all, they had radio communication there. They did not need any umbrella man. That umbrella man serves another purpose, which we were doing in the upcoming sessions now. So I don't know where he's got his information from, actually. And he's speaking about a fake Zapruder movie, and that's a real deal. Yeah, I really consider the possibility of the inside action of inside job much more highly likely than an outside job. And we know that there are so many spliced and so many modified pictures. It's hilarious. Yeah, and so that is the alleged wound of Connolly. March 18. So 4 months later. He showed that wound. Yeah, okay, we have to believe it. But if that wound occurred, then why did he kept his head? Yeah, this is a wrist fracture. I highly think that it is unlikely that you then have your ability to use your hand properly. Yeah. So that's the Secret Service, about 6,500 employees, which is of course 11. Yeah, and these are the people, my real suspects in it. This is the Secret Service. This is the Secret Service. It's very interesting that also Eric John Phelps goes into the theory of that Will Greer did it. But sorry, the main thing is that they have gotten rid of the car. They gotten rid of the car with all the evidence. Who did that? Oh, that was very interesting. That was a certain Mr. Lee Iacocca. And Lee Iacocca was later on the one who introduced the Ford Mustang 1 year later, and which became a tremendous success. And he became later the boss of Chrysler Corporation. Yeah, of course he was SMOM. But you see clearly here having a good time with the side window open. Yeah, just for the half of it, but just for the half of it. And so that is our indication that so many things have been faked. You should consider yourself not to go to the locations where they actually want you to look at. Because if smoke appears on the DD Plaza there, then it is there to appear, to draw your attention to there and to get away from the vehicle. Yeah? So everybody talking about the grassy knoll. You got a downward angle. Imagine what that means, that if you got a headshot into the right temple, then the bullet would travel down below and not in a straight line. And there are people with radio communication there. Yeah.
Weren't you saying, Michael, earlier in the session that the grassy knoll was a restricted area enforced by the police?
It was the testimony of Jean Hill, who stood on the other side here and said we were not allowed to do so, but I had a friend of the Dallas police. Actually, she was officially befriended with one motorbike cop who was part of the Dallas JFK motor parade. And therefore, she was allowed to be there on the grassy knoll. So that's why there were only a few people allowed there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you see how many people you see here. It's just a minor amount of people. You can't rely on that picture here because you know that picture has been faked. You can only rely to some photos of Mr. Betzner, for example, Betzner, Elm Street, to see who was really standing there. Yeah. Yeah, this is just one line of people. Yeah, but there were many people among them who were just not lay people. Yeah, but
yeah, because we're in the Freemason area.
Yeah, we are in the temple then.
Yeah, well, that's the esoteric meaning, Michael. And this is what I'm gathering from doing the study with you, Michael, is that, you know, if you belong to this key group of power, what should we say?
Elite.
Powerful people that are part of running this government and are saying that we have to eliminate JFK in private, then you are allowed to have that position. But if you're not a part of that, then you are kicked out. Like this testimony of, I forget who you said that was told, you know, you can't be in this area. You have to go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what Jean Hill told. Yeah.
Jean Hill. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that makes perfect sense, but continue, Michael.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we see that's a real problem with it. You can't rely on any things. Yeah, maybe these are correct people here, but it's not a bunch of people. It's just they're standing right beside each other, and so these are not such the majority of people. But the really heart of the matter is that real people think only secular. Well, they think only, yeah, okay, who murdered him, and not about the background. You see that side window and all the things. So I think if they were smart, they would have drawn the attention away to the grassy knoll and to the Texas Schoolbook Depositorium. Yeah, and the real people, they would have, for example, used sound suppressors. Yeah, this is a German article.
Yeah, silencers, yes.
Silencers, yeah. And it just say that it's very interesting here, because I don't know that, but it's just a hunting magazine here. And they said that here, when you try to set a goal to shoot the bullet, then it's just with the .308 Winchester. It is just 4 centimeters. These are 1.7 inches, so more lower, with a distance of 100 meters, which are about 300 feet or 260 feet or something like this. Yeah, so it's just a minor difference. Yeah, so if you would like to shoot somebody, you don't want to have 100 people running after you. And you won't make a big noise and all the things, but that's what they did. Yeah, they did make a big noise, they did make a big puff, and they did make a big fog and everything. I said everybody thought, okay, was coming from the grassy knoll. And that is what I try to tell the people. We are living in a satanic world, everything is tossed around. Don't look at the things they want you to look at. Think about the things that they don't want to show. And at the moment, on the bright sunny day, why there is a side window not completely down, for example, these are questions you have to ask. Yeah, it's just you can't go endlessly in that, but you have these yellow markers on the left side, and the left side, of course, is visible for the driver. So the driver knew exactly when to accelerate or when to stop or to brake. I can only rely you or recommend you to that book called Assassination Science from Fetzer. This is really interesting to read. And you have here the all secular things. I don't say that his conclusions are correct, but the sheer amount of information is really interesting.
Yeah, so when you go on Wikipedia and you read that, these accusations of the real problems in our society come from these people like Fetzer, who would dare question the official narrative. They're the real problem, the red herring. Yeah, see the conflict here? Mm-hmm. It's reflected in the Bible as well. And I think everyone that is biblically oriented knows where I'm going with this. I probably don't even need to comment on it,
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll address it at the end of the session, Michael.
Okay. Yeah, you see, that is really interesting when you think about the things that everybody talks about different. The Kellerman draws the attention to the outside of the car, saying that there was a flurry of shells coming into the car. Yeah, but why nobody was injured with the flurry of shells except JFK? And don't come with the conclusion that it was Connolly then. Yeah, you see, they actually come up with the interesting idea that it was a single magic bullet, would never appeared before and never appeared after the Kennedy assassinations. Yeah, but apart from the minor things of Connolly, who did survive, nobody had a scratch. There were 4 people out of the 6 people in the car that, although there was a flurry of shells and a bullet hole in the windshield, yeah, nobody was even hurt. Is that believable? And who was the interviewer here with Roy Kellerman? Yeah, it was 33-degree Freemason Gerald Ford, later President of the United States. Am I surprised? Am I surprised? This is inside. This is inside job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now I have some other conclusions for you. Remember that Master Mason third-degree ritual opposed Hiram Abiff. Yeah, they buried the corpse of the so-called Hiram Abiff master architect. They buried him under a pile of rubble until low 12 or midnight. And I said, oh, that is very interesting. Right from the start of the series, I said, that's very interesting. Because that very car for Mr. President Kennedy, where there was only one example, was painted midnight blue. So my conclusion, or my hypothesis actually, is that from the beginning on, this car was being meant solely for President Kennedy, not only to please him, but also to get rid of him in case that he really held on to his presidential oath that he would try to divide church and state. That's my conclusion of it, because it happened in the car. It did not happen in Dallas. Yes, it did happen in Dallas, but Dallas was not the spot. He was not murdered in a low area. He was also not murdered in Dealey Plaza, not under a tree. He was murdered inside the car. It was an inside job by insiders and happened to reflect a Masonic ritual. So come on, according to that ritual, it has been buried in midnight and the car is midnight blue and later on was being used or reused by Lyndon B. Johnson and repainted in black. Oh, Brad, what's black? The color of that special strange order from the Middle Ages.
Oh, yeah. Black is also the color of submission when you go to visit
the color
the Pope.
Of darkness, yeah.
Yeah, right. Or, you got black lies too. What are black lies?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, and here you see all the antennas.
I'm sorry, black magic, which is the same as a lie.
Okay. Yeah. And this is a presidential limousine, and this is the president and Jackie Kennedy. Many people or researchers claim that Kellerman was, of course, part of the conspiracy. Yeah, he is Kellerman once again. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's also my conclusion of it all. Yeah, you see here that famous movie of Oliver Stone with Kevin Costner, JFK. Yeah, it's the German title is JFK Tatort Dallas. Crime scene. Yeah. Yeah. So crime scene Dallas, but it's not true. It happened not in Dallas. It happened not in DD Plaza somewhere, but it happened inside the car. So that is an inside job. Why? Because he is murdered inside the temple. So he had to appear on that street. He had to go to the Elm Street, to the Street of Death. And this is Osiris here. So that is the entrance of the temple, or this is just the limitations of that temple here, starting here. So that means that, bang, you drive around the Texas Scuba Depository, 33 depicted here, 11 kind of stairs above the window. And he appeared there and he was shot there. Right before the 22, which depicts also the 22 path of the Sephiroth here. He was fatally hit here. Okay, so then agree. Some people say that he is living today, but okay, let's agree on that. Most likely he was shot. But, and it's a big but, he was not murdered somewhere, but he was murdered inside the temple, like in the ritual, by 3 ruffians. You cannot say that, okay, maybe he received 3 shots, like the official theory, or he received a shot by 3 people, which would be according to ritual. But would really the people in power care about a Freemasonic ritual? It's sufficient.
You're just laying so much out just so quickly here. You know, and in a way, it's already happened. I mean, some of these conclusions that we could draw from this, but you know, it's there's so much to cover in such a short space. I mean, what to say? I mean, it's outrageous enough to tell someone that has never thought of this before, never really thought that, you know, we never landed on the moon. This was all just an elaborate hoax. You know, if you really try and seriously present that to people that have never looked at it critically and never really thought about, well, how come we haven't gone back? You know, it's been how many years and we've never gone back to the moon once? You know, I mean, it's really that simple. I mean, you would think with the technology we have today, it would be a breeze. It'd be super easy. But no. Oh, you cannot question the official narrative. You cannot question. You see, they've rammed that down our throat, all of us, when we were in school, when we were taught as children. And that's the exoteric learning. This is the learning for the common man. You're not taught esotericism as a child. And if you are, consider yourself to be extraordinarily lucky. I shouldn't say that. You should consider yourself to be very brilliant if you can conceive that as a child. But look, it's so rare, as far as I'm concerned, that any of us would really obtain that knowledge unless God has intervened with us and showed it to us one-on-one. Because more than likely, that's the only way any of us will see it. That's the only way I could see it, is God's grace and mercy. And you know, to say that I am wiser than anyone else is foolishness. Now, we're not wise by our own wisdom. We are wise because we've allowed God to have dominion and to show us through his perfect law how things work, how they are actually allowed to happen. Why would God allow such things to happen? Well, it's because there's a purpose behind it. You know, he created all things for his purpose. That's what the Bible has told us. We ought to know that. But anyway, Michael, I just, you were mentioning that there are people that think that Kennedy is still alive today. Well, you know, that could be true, but but the big but is, who does that benefit? What's the purpose of that? When we know that it's very possible that Adolf Hitler is alive or was alive after his supposed death in 1945, was it?
Mm-hmm.
These things just take a lot of consideration, and we are not purveyors of absolute truth here on this channel. We are just providing you a little bit of insight that we've had to endure on our own, right, Michael? This is painful stuff. We don't just go out to the public and tell them, well, I believe that, we never went to the moon. I wouldn't say that to just anyone, because, people will think you're crazy. They really, honestly will. And, at some point I would too, when I was younger and I didn't know any better, because guess what? I was never really knowledgeable about inside information and how that is used to benefit an inside group that has nothing to do with the outside world. But that's esoteric thinking. And I think it's very hard for the average person like myself to see that and understand that, wait, no, there are, because look at finance. I mean, look at big business. You have inside information. And if you're not an insider and you use that information, you can be held in a court of law accountable and have to pay a prison sentence for knowing insider trading, Michael. So it's a wicked, wicked world we live in, Michael. Just filled with wickedness.
Yeah, Brett, we are almost at the finishing line from that session. Maybe we need another 10 or 15 minutes. But let me assure you, it's really simple. It's so simple that, yeah.
Please proceed.
Question. If that is a ritual, and we know that it's called the martyr president and all the things, if he has been getting rid of for religious reasons, then this is why he has been killed in the temple. But if the location where the killing happened is a temple, then what is the car?
Ah, yes. You had struck me with this question some months ago or weeks ago, and I was just dumbfounded. And then I can't remember if you just straight up told me or if I came to that conclusion that it's the altar.
See, I shows that as the last picture here. Yeah, it shows that as the last picture. If Kennedy was slain and was a blood ritual, then the car is the altar. Therefore, he had to drive with an open top. So everybody could see that he was being sacrificed on the altar. The car is the altar. Midnight Blue. It's very simple. And it's a religious ritual. It's a killing of the king, the sacrificed king. Or the killing of the master architect of Solomon's temple. You see that he was killed inside the temple. But if you use that car inside the temple, then the car is the altar. There is a blood sacrifice. You see all the blood on the seat of Kennedy. Then it's a blood sacrifice. So it's so easy when you really think of that. If you really keep it simple, stupid, the car is the altar. That means the sacrifice has to be taken place inside the car and not outside. You don't shoot at anybody who's then on the altar in the church. But the car, for me, is the altar. We're talking about a religious ritual here. And so that was my conclusion just from very early on. that I said, oh, yeah, this is so intelligent, because then you get rid of the car and then you get rid of all the evidence. Because the bullet must clearly be inside the car. Or at least the shell, or at least gunpowder, or at least DNA, or at least blood. Yeah, all has been gotten away with. All the evidence got away from the FBI, from whosoever. Got away. And people are looking about shells in the Dealey Plaza and on the grassy knoll and the Texas Zulu depository and 3 shells. This is all deception. It happened inside the car. There are several eyewitnesses who said it happened inside the car, period. And not only that I rely on that eyewitnesses, I rely on my common sense. It says that it's much more easy to execute that job inside the car, because the car, even if moving, but the target is not inside the car moving. No, I'm not talking about special relativity at the moment here. No, that's just a fallible thing of Einstein and his Freemasons and Jesuitical friends. But the thing is that Kennedy assassination is so intelligently been made because they used the Freemason and all the intelligence stuff, and nobody thinks about, oh, how could they do it? But that was planned. I think it was planned years ago. The car is the altar. And they got away with the altar. So where is the sacrifice? Yeah, you only have a corpse, and you don't know what corpse and what wound, and everything has been mixed and switched around. The coffins have been switched around even. So there is not the work of a lone assassin that the coffins has been changed and the wounds have been changed. That's just what it is. It is a deep state, or what else you would like to say. So yeah, it's a big conspiracy.
And it also points to another fact that, you know, anyone that would discuss this information to the outside world, they would consider completely nuts, like us, Michael. See that purpose too. It's serving the purpose of the state by, you know, making the official explanation be the doctrine you have to adhere to. And if you don't adhere to that doctrine, well, then you're just going to be completely laughed at, and because you see the officials came up with what did they call that now? The agreement that this is how we're going to prove it went this way, or then no, they didn't prove it, but I mean they came to that conclusion. They agreed to that those terms, that if you're outside of those terms, then you're just not going to be taken seriously, or you're going to be dealt with accordingly, however you want to look at it. It's just not going to be accepted. Let's put it that way. So that's kind of how our media works too. You don't question the official presentation. If it's been presented to you this way, then that's the only way in which you can look at it, and that's simply not true. You can question everything. You don't have to be partaking of this so-called truth that society is dishing out to you. You know, you don't have to buy it. That's my point.
Yeah. So that is really the case, and you don't have to get according to any other researchers. I read that stuff, but I'm not automatically in line with all the things. But I like to present all the things. I really happen to had a hard time finding decent pictures of that car. That car is the location of the crime. It's a crime scene. It's not Dealey Plaza, once and for all. It's the car. Yeah? So you see all the radio controls here, and you see that was Kellerman's place. Here were the governor and his wife, and here was where Kennedy was. And this is coming from almost 5 months before in Germany, in the airport, military airport of Langendiebach. I don't know that city. And you see Kennedy out of a sudden is sitting where, Brett?
What? He's on the other side.
He's on the other side. That would
behind the driver. Yeah.
Behind the driver, which would make it a hard time for Mr. Greer to shoot Kennedy. Huh? So that is the first one which came into my mind. Yeah, you see that, he's not sitting in the right spot, but in the left spot at the moment. Yeah, and of course with his old driver here, huh? or with another driver. So, but this is here Dallas. Yeah, he's on the right spot. Yeah, so that when Connolly ducks or bends over, then this is free to shoot. Yeah, but not when he's not considerably any time. Yes, sometimes he's on the left, then he's on the right side, but then he was on the right side. Yeah, it's very interesting. And there were people saying, "Oh yeah, I came from that guy here from the grassy knoll with a special pistol and with mercury full bullet and all the things." Yeah, we don't know. You see that so many disinformation agents.
That's the point, Michael. We don't know, and we're just presenting the facts the way we see it, and that's it. I mean, we're not saying it absolutely went this way. No, and I think that's kind of the problem with discussing the whole event, is that people want to take it a certain way, and they do, and they take it that way. Like this, commenter we had earlier a week ago, they only see it one way, and they don't consider anything else. If anything disagrees with the conclusion, it's dogmatic thinking, Michael.
Yeah, and so you see all these sort of information agents like Billy Joel, who said we didn't start the fire. Yeah, JFK blown away. What else do I have to say? And then he's depicting Oswald as the lone assassin. Yeah, sure. This is all programming.
Yes, it's programming.
It's programming. Yeah, so the burning fire means, of course, the eternal flame and lighting on the grave of Kennedy, and also on the obelisk of JFK in the Dealey Plaza.
Yeah, I think of the obelisk.
Yeah, so this is just disinformation, and everybody, almost anybody, depicts that the wound, the entrance or the exit wound, so to speak, was on the outside. I don't know if they're all lying, but it just appears that it's just more highly likely that the shot came from the front, or not, at least not from the back. This is a irrelevant picture. And you see here the crowds on the Dealey Plaza, just not that much people. Yeah? You see that the road is closed here, so it seems. Yeah, see that here?
Right.
Yeah, it's very few people comparing to the Main Street. Yeah, this is Houston Street. There's not much going on there. Yeah, and you see that there are so many movies also are missing. Yeah, from other people here. This never showed up. All the movies have been getting rid of. Yeah, getting rid of. It's even people who claims that these are fake people in the picture. Yeah, and Jackie said that, it was terribly hot. Yeah, it was terribly hot. Yeah, it was not that hot. It was the end of November, but yeah. What do I say? Yeah, you see that it's very interesting that nobody reacted to anything but JFK. He reacted to something. Nobody else was reacting. Nobody was helping Kennedy out. Nobody. Absolutely nobody. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you see, he was
pretty obvious too, Michael. It's pretty obvious that they were ordered not.
Yeah, sure. They're just ordered, just taking orders.
Yeah, just following orders.
Just following orders, yes, at the same time. Yeah, and LBJ slides further down as they approach the book depository. Yeah, sure. He was getting busy with his walkie-talkie. And also in these pictures, they are disturbed areas, and it's just everything is forged. Yeah, you see that this picture here does not make any sense here. Yeah, it's just somebody like somebody presenting here Woody Woodpecker or Roadrunner or what else. I don't know. Yeah, look at this. Yeah, I never figured out what that is.
Oh yeah.
But nobody talks about it. Everybody talks about these things. Yeah. And what is that here?
It's strange.
Yeah, strange things going on here, huh?
Very strange.
Very strange things going on here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you see, the decoy was not shot from the 6th floor, but rather from a revolver. Some people say fired in the air from the rear seat of the Secret Service car, following immediately behind the blue convertible carrying Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson here. So that, I think, that is highly likely that they did this distraction shot here. And you have all the echoes. You cannot tell where it happened. Yeah, and once again, if you see somebody with a revolver set shooting back to the Secret Service, it's like looking at a Clint Eastwood movie. Dirty Harry with his Magnum 44, and he said, yeah, make my day. Yeah, and then he's shooting, and millions of people see Clint Eastwood shooting and somebody else falling down. Yeah, but everybody knows, oh yeah, no one was hurt because it was just a movie. But who tells if JFK's assassination also was not a movie in a movie? It's Hollywood. And he's against the Zodiac killer. And the ruler of the Zodiac is the 666 god, by the way. Yeah, so sacrifice of Kennedy was also against the Zodiac. That's why I came up with the idea of Clint Eastwood taking him as the prime example from 1 year later, 1964, in A Fistful of Dollars, with his shooting vest, with his protection vest. Yeah. So you don't know. You see that it's impossible things happening in all the pictures. Yeah, which do not correlate, do not respond to the Zapruder movie once and for all. Yeah, this is absolutely astonishing. This is Lyndon B. Johnson somewhere here, hiding behind, oh no, I don't want to get involved in that. I just want to be president. Yeah, these SOBs of Kennedy won't embarrass me again. Huh? You remember?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So both rear doors of that vehicle here, of that light yellow Mercury, which contains Texas High Patrol Joe H. Rich as driver, Johnson 8. Johnson 8, Secret Service Agent Jerry Kivett in the right front, and Special Agent Thomas L. Lance Johns in the right rear, and Special Agent Woody Taylor in the left rear seat. Yeah, and look at it's hilarious when you think about the picture here with Woody Woodpecker, huh? And his name is Woody Taylor. Oh, come on, really, they are fooling us, or aren't they fooling us? They're making fun of us, I think, sometimes. They're really making fun of us, huh? My. And then who was getting rid of the car? It was Lee Iacocca. Yeah? Oh my.
Yeah, and they get rewarded, don't they?
Yeah, they get rewarded, yes. Lee Iacocca, yeah. Was well acquainted with the Jesuit orders. Yeah, sure. He was a big industrial boss. It's all the same guys behind that. Yeah, sure. That's why Bill Juper in his series Mystery Babylon Hour, he's spot on. When he said that in Masonic, the North is a place of darkness. Yeah, sure. That's why they killed them there. Yeah, North is in the sides of the gods. Yes. Yeah, and in this book, this Last Dissenting Witness, we will go into that book quite soon. Jean Hill said, yes, she was standing right at the curb. Yeah, with Mary Moorman. Yeah, we were taking pictures. According to the Dallas police, that area was close to civilians, the agent said. So how did you happen to be there? That was your question, Brett, right? Well, Jean Hill said, persuaded one of the officers on duty that he should let us go in there to take pictures. And how did you do that? I guess you might say we flirted with them, Jean said, feeling her discomfort beginning to grow. Yeah, and I guess it might have. She finally managed to say, did you mention J.B. Marshall, name to this officer? Is that one reason that he let you pass? It might have, and that is a synonym or an alias of some of the Dallas motorcade police guys, because there was no official marshal. So it takes away a little bit of credibility when Jean Hill has another name made up for her boyfriend at that time, who then allowed to take pictures at the Dealey Plaza. Yeah, but you see that according to Dallas police, that area was close to civilians, the agent said. So that comes from that book. I'm not making anything up, but I have to read so many books on that, and I haven't read them entirely, but the key things I have picked out of the books, and that gives another picture on that picture that you are not allowed to see. Yeah. So which version do you want to see? You don't know, because every version has been altered. I really cannot know. It's too grainy here. Yeah, you see that CIA reviewed a heart attack in 1975. There's a heart attack gun, but what does a heart attack gun is of use when you want to have a great image in like a Hollywood picture? Yeah, the disturbing story of a heart attack gun. You see, they can only fool you with that. Yeah, you can't prove anything. This is a secret service, you see. That is, oh my, do you really believe all the stuff that they are pointing out? Shellfish toxin. Yeah, if it doesn't kill you instantly, it kills you then afterwards. And you have to rely on that gun? Oh my. As on MK Ultra, you see that you can come up with everything that was supposed to be used to assassinate Fidel Castro, but we know that Fidel Castro was a Jesuit. So he would never been assassinated. At least not from the CIA. Oh my. I would more be worried of biological warfare, but this is going on since 2019 on a big scale. Oh, really? People. Noiseless when fired. Yeah, but what's the conclusion in that? But that's that shellfish toxin CIA secret weapon when it is virtually noiseless. But in comparison to that, at least 5 people have told that there was a gunshot inside the car. So what's the point in that? Yeah, that Bill Cooper said, oh yeah, that was that gun because it was virtually noiseless. But sorry, this is BS because many witnesses were there who said there was a gunshot happened inside the car. So you see, you don't get anywhere.
No.
Yeah, you had information, disinformation, that you have to read an extensive amount of things.
Well, Michael, it just pretty much seals it up for me when you say out of this book that that area was closed off.
Mm-hmm.
That just really stinks to high heaven to me. I mean, how much more obvious can it be that this was all planned?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you see, you really trust Mr. Gottlieb, the head of the CIA project MK Ultra. Maybe he's using the average publicity or the average public to fool them all into believing that there is a special gun needed for the assassination of Kennedy of somewhere else. Yeah, there is also a KGB hitman who has used a similar weapon with success. Yeah. The man with the poison gun. Yeah, but these are just 2 sides of the coin. The Jesuits control both sides. Yeah, so that can only be disinformation here. You can't tell. You can't tell. Yeah, that's why I have really a hard time into going all the things because you will never finish. Because whom to believe? Whom to believe? You will be betrayed by Freemasons, by SMOM. Yeah, you will be betrayed by your own government because it hasn't gotten rid away of every evidence. Yeah, whom to believe? Yeah, these people behind the scenes, they know it all. Gerald Ford and Kissinger. I suspect that they know it all.
They do, but they'll never tell you. That's the thing.
It's not you coming up with the things. You shall be kept busy with the grassy knoll. 30 years of your life, you're spending time with the grassy knoll, collecting all the evidence. Yeah, when it's all futile. Mm-hmm. Yeah, almost to a complete stop. Yes, but you see that, of course, he was involved in the assassination. Yeah, and Eddie Connelly. Yeah, of course, nobody would talk about that because he would be the next victim. Yeah, nobody would talk inside the car. He would be the next one. Most likely. Many people were killed after the Kennedy assassination who were trying to get any information out. Huh? Yeah, many people. Yeah. So President Kennedy was to be sacrificed. That's spot on because it was a religious killing in a temple, of course, on the altar. So that means that you slaughter the lamb or you slaughter the victim on the altar. That's where altars are for. As far as I am concerned, as far as I know, in every altar, there is debris or a dead animal or something like that. Yeah, they won't tell you, but I have gotten that information a long time before. Yeah. Yeah, Jackie Kennedy says it was very hot day. Yes, if you dress like this, it's no wonder that it's very hot under that hat with the wool. Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, but you see that you have to be properly dressed if you're accompanying your husband the first time for months. Oh yeah, we will go into that next session. I can tell you. Oh my, oh my, oh my. There will come so unbelievable information. Yeah, but you see that. Why did she wear that? Why would she stand out? Huh? nothing else to wear. Huh? Women always got the problem that they don't have anything to wear. No, it was not the first time that she wore that, no? Also, but is it just, it was not that hot, yeah? You see that, and this is Clint Hill at the moment on the back of the limousine, a little bit overweight maybe, but you see that he at least was doing his job temporarily, but not, of course, in the Houston Street, Elm Street, no way of thinking, no. Everybody was ordered back, of course, yeah? But that is Dallas here. That is Dallas. 2028. Oh, yeah. The Secret Service man that was on the left rear side of the limousine, he was holding onto the handle and there was no one on the right side. Now, as they turned the corner, Clint Hill, who was the Secret Service man, he hopped off the limo and got on the car behind him. Look at that time code. Yeah, that's 2 or 3 minutes before the assassination happened. From Jackie Tyndall. Don't know how reliable that is, but you see, this is important information. Nobody was hurt except, no. Nobody was hurt inside the car except Kennedy and Connolly. Yeah. Yeah, and Aaron Zapruder, he finally got his spot. Sure, and he was shooting. At least I hope not only a picture. Oh, I don't want to get rid of that. I don't want to get rid of that. Yeah, and here you see finally some pictures of the car. Okay. Finally some pictures of the car. So this is it in empty, so a few months before the assassination, most likely. You see all the controls here. Yeah, what you don't see in the Zapruder movie. And you see here the complete window. It's interesting. It's more interesting if you know that they have gotten rid of all the evidence by replacing it with a new windshield. Yeah, and also that it had not used the top on it. Yeah, because it was so hot, right? Oh, it was so hot on that day.
Right.
It was extremely hot on a November day. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they had installed all the technical equipment there. Yeah, all the technical equipment there. These pictures are here. All the electronic devices are coming from 1961. And I was very astonished when I found that. And I said, oh, that is very interesting. Yeah, because, look at this. No. It's about wiretapping from 1952 to 1965, ELSOR index. ELSOR means electronic surveillance. And that is a technique that used 33-degree Freemason J. Edgar Hoover. To spy against the Kennedy brothers. Yeah, he had Kennedy brothers under surveillance. So when I found out about that ELSOR program during the time of the presidency of Kennedy, of course, I was very interested in that, and I said, "Wow, can't it be?" Yeah, that means as if he is wiretapping the Kennedys, why won't he wiretapping the presidential car? COINTELPRO, counterintelligence program initiated at FBI Director Hoover's behest. So disinformation agency also. And Hoover was always against the Kennedys. There are even books upon that. Interesting, yeah? So that means that all the electronic surveillance in the car would also achieve the benefit to J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI, to control every communication inside the car. And not only by phone, but by radio. You see that installation of White House Army signal, you see, not public, Army signal, agency equipment in new limousine, more than 2 years or 2.5 years before the assassination took place. Isn't that interesting? When you really think of common sense, what possibilities there were. Yeah. You see that when I see that some people are connecting or soldering something to it, I think that I clearly say that this is a microphone. Yeah, and this is the seat of Kellerman. He had the radio equipment, and he could have contacted the police or the Secret Service or maybe Lyndon B. Johnson. Yeah, and you see that is this the seat of the blood sacrifice here. If that is not a blood sacrifice, I don't know what that is. Yeah, but I don't see any, apart from the dent on the windscreen, I don't see any bullets here. Yeah, but it's just me, huh? And people say that, always say that we come into the next time into that. They always claim that, yes, Miss Kennedy was hopping on the trunk because she found a part of the brain. The problem is you don't see that on the trunk because all the dots you see are the antennas. So it is very dangerous when you follow the explanation of Bill Cooper. He says that, yeah, she wants to get out of the car because of the shooter Bill Greer. Yeah, you see, the shooter Bill Greer is accelerating the car at that moment. So in that moment, there is no danger, imminent danger from him. Yeah, I know he's Superman to Bill Cooper, but he can't speed up the car, drive the car, look in front and shoot back to Mrs. Kennedy at the same time. Even he can't.
Well, you know what's strange, Michael, I just noticed in this frame? This is supposedly the Zapruder film. Look behind Jacqueline Kennedy. You can see a little bit of that window. Glass.
Yeah.
In its entirety. And it's strange. In other parts of the Zapruder film, it's not there.
Yeah, I said there are several copies from that Zapruder movie.
That is really strange.
Yeah, and you see that's the problem with it. You see that whom to believe and what to believe, and they are just switching.
It's just
frames.
all mixed up. Yeah, it's all mixed up.
It's all mixed up on purpose. You see.
Oh wait, this is starting to sound really familiar. When you research the history of the church and the doctrines they teach, you know, that was the Jesuit strategy to begin with, to mix the doctrine, mix it up.
Yeah, you see, this is clearly, most likely, you see the red roses, yellow roses, and so on. This is the Dallas trip, the final trip for the president. Yeah, and here you see 1, 2, 3 black dots on the back, and you see here an antenna, there an antenna. Yeah, you see many people are misleading into believing that these are part of the brains in the Zapruder movie. As you see that, oh yeah, there is a black spot on the trunk. Yeah, you see like this or like that. No, these are the antenna. Yeah, places there, the mixtures. Yeah, these are only 2. I don't know where the center is. I don't know. Yeah. But you see that you can't rely on any pictures, but it's hilarious. How can you go to a trunk if you want to get out of the vehicle as soon as you can? Would you go to the trunk or would you just step out? Yeah, you just can step out on the left side of the car because that window is on the side nearby the Nellie Connelly and not on her side. So to get rid of him, she does not need to go on the trunk. Because she's a really good target for any bullets to fly. A flurry of shells, remember? When there was a flurry of shells, according to Kellerman, why did she crawl onto the trunk? Oh, did she not realize the flurry of shells? You see, all the things are absolutely contradicting. It cannot be true. If she would be afraid of Mr. Greer, she would really have to duck down behind Nellie Connelly so that Greer never could have taken her out, or she could have stepped out of the car in the nearest possible manner that would say climb out of the car on the left side and not to the trunk. Yeah, you see, you got to cover much distance and all the antennas in the way. Yeah, but of course she climbed to the trunk because of Clint Hill, her savior. Oh yeah, you wait for the next session. You wait for the next session, but it all makes sense when the car is the altar because there happened the blood sacrifice of Kennedy. And I cannot remember anybody talking about that in that way, but that's my kind of approach. It is a religious ritual nonetheless. It is nothing but a religious ritual. Nothing else. Yeah. Can you imagine that?
The religion of Freemasonry, by the way.
Yeah. Can you imagine that the car would have rapidly stopped? Yeah, bang. Yeah, then there would be damage to the Cadillac behind, and so everything was been set up from the beginning. Yeah, you see here the window. Yeah, it clearly ends here, and she could have gotten out the vehicle. Yeah, but you see that. Who am I? I'm just not a professional researcher. I'm just using my common sense. Yeah, the easiest way to get out of the vehicle would be on the left side. Oh, my. Yeah, we have to learn common sense again. We really have to learn common sense, people. Yeah, this is really interesting pictures here. Everything was set up. And even 60 years after, we cannot say for sure how they did it, but we know that they did it. Because Kennedy never approached after the 22nd of November, so it is likely that they got him. And these are the last pictures here. This is a copy of the car. Somebody made it very cool, a duplicate of the car of Kennedy. And you see all the locations on the back here with the antennas. Yeah. So who would crawl onto the trunk? In a moving car. Really? Okay, you can get rid of the antennas, but once and for all, it would be easier to get out of the vehicle on the left side, huh? Yeah. Oh, my. Yeah. So that's it. That's the end of the session here. Looking forward to the next session, and I'm really thankful when all the Kennedy sessions are over. I think we need about 6 to 8 sessions from now on. Next time we go into the, how to say that, JFK's people in the car and and a very appropriate theory, which also has to do with religion. And so thank you very much. I'm really exhausted from that session. It was over 300 pages of content. I hope you get my point. It is not necessarily your point, but nevertheless, I hope that I could feed you with some interesting information. Thank you very much, and see you next time. Looking forward. Maranatha, handing it over to my beloved brother Brett.
Thank you, Michael, for another session in our series that you're doing with Jörg Glismann in Germany also. Mm-hmm. And I know you're treading over material you have already gone through. And yeah, there's just so much to discuss, so many points that are not that easy to see unless you've went through this material. So I think that's the point Michael's trying to make here, is that we have to pay attention that these little details, when you add them all up, add up to deception. We were deceived. And what does the Bible tell us? Let no man deceive you by any means. And believe me, there are a lot of means at the disposal of the hierarchy when you consider that they really own the media. And they own the social media too. That's why we get censored on, where. Because it's like we were talking about earlier, what I was saying earlier. If you speak out against the official narrative, you will be suppressed. No question about it, especially in the realm of the media. So yeah, it's all just really a shame, but that's the way it works. And we shouldn't be surprised, should we, Michael?
No, it's just an antichrist world. They get rid of everybody who is in their way. Yeah, so it's disgusting sometimes to go into the Kennedy, because I'm so fed up with all the brutality and dishonor of people, and but I hope that somebody will then draw his attention to the Bible and how this world really is running.
There we go, Michael, and that's the perfect cue to end the session. 1 Corinthians chapter 1. Let's start with verse 22. 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 22. Yeah, for the Jews require a sign, and the Greeks seek after wisdom, but we preach Christ crucified, unto the Jews a stumbling block, and unto the Greeks foolishness. But unto them which are called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ, the power of God and the wisdom of God, because the foolishness of God is wiser than men, and the weakness of God is stronger than men. For ye see your calling, brethren, that how not many wise after the flesh, not many mighty, not many noble are called. But God hath chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. And God hath chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty, and the base things of the world, and the things which are despised, God hath chosen, yea, and the things which are not, to bring to naught the things that are, that no flesh should glory in his presence. But of him are ye in Christ Jesus, who of God is made unto us wisdom and righteousness and sanctification and redemption, that according as it is written, he that glorieth, let him glory in the Lord. Maranatha.